First time I've ever done a podcast live. So I'm actually I have this recording as well as being on a VOD. And
Okay.
I'll need all of your links too. I think I forgot to ask because I do normally post them on YouTube. And then the other thing as well, I don't know if you want to, but some people have asked if they could record it themselves as well. And so if you want to record it and you want to post it, I don't care.
Oh no, that's okay.
People have just asked, so.
I think it's your deal. I'll shoot you my Twitch link and YouTube and OnlyFans link, and we'll call it good. I'm kidding.
I was not prepared for the OnlyFans link. Okay. Now I have some extra questions for you. Let's just go with that.
Okay.
But all right.
I'm ready. First off, I want to say I'm happy to be on. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the invite. I'm ready, and I'm excited to talk.
I'm glad we could actually finally get it going. I felt so bad yesterday. I was like, you don't have to ask me to do stuff with Teapot and Bella. Like, it's totally cool. You could just wait. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I've never actually done anything like that with them. So I've had them on the podcast and stuff, and I help out with Hard Stuck, but that's pretty much it.
Oh, cool. So, okay, cool.
Yeah. But even though most of these people are from your host, if you just want to let everybody know where they can find you, social media that you're able to have. I don't know if you have the stream up at the moment, but this was my original Guild Wars 2 overlay with Twitter on there. I guess I could have changed it to Instagram, so I have some nice shifty eyes for you until you are able to
it is what it is. StaySafeTV on Twitch is fine. Yeah, that's where you can get a hold of me. That's the best place.
Perfect. And so you just recently started playing Guild Wars 2. How long have you been playing?
Yeah, I've been playing Guild Wars 2 now for maybe 2.5 weeks. And prior to that, I was just, playing WoW, various versions of WoW and RuneScape for the last 16 years. And Blizzard and WoW is in sort of an interesting spot right now. So a lot of, I've heard that you're in a similar situation where there are a lot of WoW content creators that are they're sort of poking their head out of the WoW hole for the first time in a long time and saying, oh, wow, there's a lot of other good games out here, right? And so I tried Final Fantasy. I did some raids. I got to level 50. I leveled up. And, there's some redeeming qualities, but it just wasn't the MMO that I was looking to play all day. And I made my way to Bless Unleashed, and that was interesting. And now I'm here in Guild Wars 2, and I've been loving it. I've been addicted to Guild Wars 2 now for 2.5 weeks. It's been a really nice breath of fresh air.
So let's back up a little bit. So from your full itinerary, everything that you just mentioned, did you start with RuneScape, you were saying, or did you start with World of Warcraft and then play RuneScape?
I started RuneScape in 2003, and then I started playing WoW when it came out in December of 2004 is when I started. And then I've just been playing WoW and RuneScape off and on for 16 years. Yeah, that's kind of my story.
Yeah, that's incredible. I've never played RuneScape. I did have a lot of time into WoW once I was finally asked to play in high school because our raid team needed a healer. So you're like, you're a girl, you can heal, because that was the meme back then. Girls only heal.
Right.
So, but I did hear about in RuneScape, if someone killed you, you lost all your stuff. Is that
in certain areas of the world? Yeah, there were high risk areas called the wilderness.
That's cool.
So yeah, you could just never go there if you didn't want. You didn't really need to go there, but it was a huge part of the gameplay was having battles out there and trying to steal other people's gear is a big deal. A lot of fun.
That is a lot of fun. And so with WoW, you said that you started essentially right in December of 2004 when World of Warcraft became a thing. Did you ever play Warcraft before that? Did you know any of the lore?
Oh yeah, I grew up. I grew up playing Warcraft 2 and then Warcraft 3. And so my childhood was Blizzard games. I played Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 a ton, and Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3 and StarCraft Brood War. And then WoW came out, and I kept kind of juggling those games. But WoW was mind blowing. I remember when WoW came out, I didn't even know that games, because I never really had consoles. I never really played many console games. I didn't know that video games could look as good as WoW did. The years 2004, I was like, holy crap. I didn't know that graphics could be this insane. This looks so lifelike, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of laughable today, but it blew my mind when I was a kid, at least.
That's awesome. So what was your main in WoW? And did you actually take part in both PvP and raids? Were you actually big into the quests, or did you just kind of grab them and try to get parties together for dungeons to level up?
Well, so during Vanilla WoW, which was 2004 to 2006 or so, we had dial-up internet. I couldn't really get much done. I was a kid. I made it to 60. I was playing a mage, and I just kind of like, dinked around. I didn't really get much done. Like if I could finish a dungeon in 2 or 3 hours without my mom picking up the phone and the internet going out, I was happy. I remember being in Blackrock Depths, which is like a really big dungeon, and she would pick up the phone. Oh, hey Nancy, yeah, I can talk for 17 hours, no problem. And I was just like, oh, please, I'm halfway through a dungeon. It was in Burning Crusade when I really started raiding and I started PvPing and I did a lot of arena, and I was in the best raiding guild on my server. It was a bad server though, but that's when I kind of like really started playing the game, was TBC and Wrath Lich King. And then I ended up quitting in Kata because the game just I think a lot of players kind of see, yeah, Kata, the game changed a lot. And so that's when I started playing private servers, was in around 2011. And
we're gonna edit that out of the video. No,
well, it's funny because I remember 2011. I went back, and that's when I replayed Vanilla WoW on private servers and TBC on private servers, and I was like, "Holy smokes, this is crazy!" And it's actually being a private server YouTuber, and I would occasionally stream, but for three years or so, I made kind of funny or kind of like guide videos for Vanilla WoW and TBC for private server content. It was a very small community. I didn't get many views. There was no money in it, and then it was after 3 years of doing that, just kind of as a hobby, Classic WoW gets announced. And so for me, that was like right place, right time. I knew a lot about the game. I had a very small community, and I was able to catapult off of that, what was a passion, making these videos and playing this older version of the game, to segue from that into Classic WoW. And that's why I became a streamer. I never had planned on being a streamer until Classic WoW was announced.
Wow,
that's
actually kind of late too. And I love how that was I always thought when they actually announced Classic WoW that it was damage control, because they kept saying that they would eventually do like those original servers, because they had the big thing where they shut them down. Like all of the big ones had them shut down, and then obviously they came right back up. But I was like, they're just going to keep telling people this so that they play retail and never bring like the classic server in. I was actually really surprised when they did. So
yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like I remember that BlizzCon. It was BlizzCon 2017. They like I was taking a nap that day, and I remember like I had people call me and say, "Oh my god, they announced Classic WoW," and I was like, "Nah, no way." I went back to bed. I didn't even bother checking. And then I woke up a couple hours later, and I was like, "Holy crap! Yeah, they actually did." It completely caught me off guard. I couldn't believe it.
And you said that you started streaming because of that. So you've been legitimately streaming since 2017, or did you dabble in it a little bit beforehand?
I knew Classic is announced. I want to try to do this full time, and so I grinded for maybe 6 months. And then after 6 months, I was at a point where I could go full time. Yeah. Yeah, and it was funny because so I streamed for maybe a year and a half full time, and the game wasn't even out yet. So it was kind of just a waiting room. Like we sat there and we just talked about it, and we watched old videos, and we did like theory crafting and spreadsheets and stuff for like 18 months. And then the game came out, and then we could finally play it. But my stream was just like a lobby, just a waiting room, just getting excited and hyping up Classic WoW. And then it came out, and we actually had a game to really play.
Yeah. That's incredible. And did you start picking up the YouTube even more then? Like, was that when you started seeing an increase in viewership and could actually do more with it?
Yeah, it's funny. I really don't like making YouTube videos. If you're a streamer, streaming is, for me, it's kind of like, how can I put this? Streaming is very easy, but making YouTube videos, that starts to border on actual work. You have to sit down and edit a video and script it out and plan out. That's like more work. Streaming, you just kind of sit here and ramble. Yeah. But yeah, I've always kind of neglected my YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, once we actually had the game to play, I could record myself playing the game and talking about the game, and the hype. I think you're probably been Classic a little bit, right, as well. The hype for it, if you remember 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, was insane. Like it was, and so it was a very, I attribute a lot of my success with becoming a streamer on YouTube and Twitch to really just like kind of right place, right time, right. Like I just had the hobby, and it segued in really nicely. The stars kind of aligned. But there's an alternate universe where Classic WoW never got announced, and I'm just working a normal job, and I'm just a normal dude. Yeah.
It's actually funny that you mentioned that, because I remember so many people, like when I used to stream WoW, because we would do like Mythic Plus carries and whatnot. And It was like, I don't know if you got this too, but every single question was, are you going to play Classic? Are you looking forward to Classic? What do you think about Classic? And it's funny because my idea was kind of the opposite of yours. I was excited because I didn't play during Vanilla. I
Yeah,
started at the end of TBC. And
yeah.
so I was like, I would like to actually see it, you know, and see how it was because I never actually played on any of the private servers. But I almost felt like it was kind of like a cop out. Like they should be working on the future rather than people being
Yeah.
so excited about the past and having that be more popular. And I was nervous. It's going to sound really silly, but I was so like addicted to WoW and it was such a big part of my life that I was like, what if there isn't World of Warcraft? Like, what if they stop putting out expansions because of Classic? And I was actually really
Oh
scared
wow,
about
yeah.
it. So I'm not sure if you got like those questions in chat as well. I'm sure you answered them differently, but
I
it was
mean,
a
my
lot.
community was always people that were kind of disgruntled with retail WoW. So we didn't even have a lot of retail players. So those conversations never came up. But it's like looking back on it, I think they just had two teams. So I don't think any resources they put into Classic really took away from retail, right? I think they just had like
Yeah.
a team here and a team there. I think there was a little bit of crossover, but yeah, I mean. I think they realized that there was a huge potential market of these like 25 or 30-year-old gamers that played vanilla back in the day
Mhm.
that wanted to replay it again. And I think also for people maybe like you that never played it, there was a huge interest in it because like they had never seen the pre-cataclysm zones.
Right.
Like they had never even played vanilla or TBC or Wrath, so they never saw what the world was like before the cataclysm, right?
Mhm.
And so all those old dungeons and all the old zones, it was like, yo, what's up with this? So yeah, I mean, I'm not. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
And so now with your streams, you go back and forth between playing Guild Wars 2 and Classic, or are you just focusing on Guild Wars 2? Do you have certain days?
Yeah, I raid Thursdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. I raid TBC, and obviously TBC's plugging along. I'm having a lot less fun with TBC than I was with vanilla for a lot of reasons. There's like big game design differences between the two that I think cause that. And also, I think everyone is sort of like, unhappy with Blizzard in general at the moment. And so, um, a lot of like unfortunate things as far as Blizzard is concerned happened all at the same time, which is
Mhm.
why there's sort of this exodus. But yeah, I mean, like I'm kind of for a long time I kind of felt like an MMO refugee. Like I wasn't really happy with TBC, and I was trying other MMOs casually and trying other games, and I found Guild Wars, and that's kind of really all I want to play. But obviously, they announced Classic Vanilla Fresh. They're gonna do at some point. They just came out with a blue post saying that the other day, and for me, with Classic WoW, if they do it again, and they will, the whole Fresh thing, I feel like I had my Classic experience. I got everything out of it that I wanted. Like I had a ton of fun, and I got Scarab Lord. I led a speedrunning guild. We raided hardcore. We did it all. We did it all, and it was a ton of time. And I invested like I don't know if you've ever led a guild, but leading in and officer meetings and loot decisions and taking
Yep.
attendance and da 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 and going hard. It takes a lot of time. And I think if it comes out again or when it comes out again, I would just play it very very casually and kind of. I kind of regret actually to a certain degree just exclusively playing WoW pretty much for so long because I think there's been a lot of good games that have come out over the last 15 years, and I just never cared about them because I was so absorbed by WoW. And now that I'm kind of looking around, it's like, oh, you know what? Final Fantasy 14 is okay, man. Guild Wars is awesome. New World is coming out. Ashes of Creation is at some point going to come up. And I'm at this point, I'm kind of looking forward to trying new games and new experiences, and I'm enjoying Guild Wars now. And who knows? Who knows what's on the horizon?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And yeah, I get exactly what you're saying because I used to raid lead as well. And speaking of
Mhm.
that, when you had started playing Guild Wars 2, like what actually made you play it? Was it something that you had like just come across people were talking about like on social media? Did someone finally say, "Hey, you should play it"? Was it always on your list? How did this happen? And what was your reaction to the first day in the community with like they're trying to help you out, help you pick classes, help you with your abilities and utilities, especially coming from a raid someone who's previously raid led in class?
Yeah. So about a month ago on my stream, I was like, guys, WoW is kind of, we're chilling on this. It's not absorbing me like it used to. So we made a list. We opened up Notepad, and on my stream one day about a month ago, we made a list, and it had SW Tor, Star Wars: The Old Republic. It had ESO. It had Guild Wars 2. It had Bless Unleashed. It had some other MMOs, BDO. And I was like, guys, we're gonna try all of these games at least for a couple days. I want to try them for a couple days each, and just to kind of educate ourselves about MMOs, because I have never played any of them. And we made it through 2 of those. The second one was Guild Wars 2. And I just abandoned the list because I was having so much fun with Guild Wars 2. I just got sucked into it. And that first day I streamed Guild Wars, I had so much. There was like an outpouring of support and tons of new followers and tons of gifted subs and tons of viewers. And I think like every Guild Wars 2 streamer hosted me that day. I think you were one of them. And it was crazy. Like I was not used to that much positivity, because the WoW community is can be a little bit toxic at times, can be a little bit edgy at times, can be a little bit negative at times. And so it was kind of a breath of fresh air to be in the Guild Wars section on my first day, and it was just nothing but like an outpouring of love and so much positivity. So that was very endearing, actually. Mm-hmm. As far as like people trying to offer advice or try to help, I think what makes MMOs fun, or playing a new MMO for the first time, is sort of that magic experience where you get butterflies in your stomach of, sort of struggling through things and figuring things out, and your gears are turning and your electrons are fucking, conjoining and whatever, and having, overcoming those hurdles. And for me, having people spam advice or spam help in the chat, it does take away a lot of the fun. If I'm like, explicitly asking for help on something, that's one thing. But having people kind of breathe down your neck, hey, you should do this, you need to do that, hey, do it this way, you need to do it that way, that definitely does take away the fun. But I think that people in the Guild Wars community are so eager to have new streamers and eager to help people have fun with the game, that's how they express it. I don't think they have any ill intent. I think they're trying to help you have more fun. But you just have to be honest, like, hey, guys, I'd prefer if you don't do that. And then it's fine, right? It's all good.
Yeah, typically. That's actually something that I had to do as well, which is why I was asking, because a lot of people had actually mentioned on like social media and stuff and in Discords, they're like, oh yeah, we have, these new people that are playing their WoW refugees, which that coined term is so...
WoW refugee.
But... But it's just funny because they're like, oh, I don't want anybody to be scared off because, there has to be a specific weapon with a specific build for a specific class. And I'm like, I think everybody will be okay. So what did you actually end up starting with? What caught your eye for a class? Was it a lot of people were saying that many new people were going Necromancer?
Oh, really? A lot of people are doing that. I mean, the like character or fantasy archetype I've always liked is like, to apply dots and drain life and do damage over time and stuff like this. So I always like playing the Pokemon Game Boy games when I was a kid. I always played plant type Pokemon like Leech Seed and Giga Drain and stuff like that. And with Diablo 2 growing up, I always played Necromancer, and with WoW, I like to play Warlock. And so for me, I saw Necromancer and I was like, yeah, we're doing this. So it's interesting that that's just what I play in every game. It's interesting that like everyone's doing that. I wonder if there's a reason for that.
I'm honestly not sure. I know that a lot of people are really drawn to having those like the trait lines and going with builds for minions so that you have something else to tank for you and you can just keep throwing dots on something.
Yeah.
I actually just made my first Necromancer. So have you tried any of the other classes or races in game? Are you going to try them in the future, or are you just like sticking with one thing and just going to play through get to 80?
I really prefer not to play a lot of alts. In WoW, if you're like doing hardcore raiding, you kind of have to have multiple for the sake of split runs. You have to play multiple characters to have stuff to do. But with Guild Wars, because I'm not really trying to, min max and go crazy hard. I think I just want to play my main, which is the Necromancer. And like this is obviously not how Guild Wars 2 is, but if I'm to conceptualize my perfect MMO, like if I'm, fantasizing about it, it would be an MMO where I can sort of do everything on one character and not have to level 6 characters to experience everything, right? And so I'm just sort of alt averse. So even to the point of not trying out other new things, I think I actually prefer at the moment, at least, to stick to my main character. I mean, I'm only level 47, so I think, maybe 6 months from now, if I've already done everything on my main, I'm max level, and I've done everything there is to do, I might feel differently. But for me, it's still so new and still fun to do that all I'm thinking about is my main, right?
Right. And so, speaking of that, and kind of being able to play every single thing on one character, let's go back. And you did say that you tried 14, but only to level 50, because you can
Yeah.
be every single job, crafter, gatherer, whatever, on one character in Final Fantasy 14. So, what kind of dissuaded you from continuing that?
Yeah. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 has a lot of really redeeming qualities. Like, I think the class design is great. I think the raids are great. I like the fact that if you want, you can do all the jobs on one character. I like that a lot. For me, I really dislike the leveling process. I didn't boost. I did all the leveling, and I think the MSQ, the main story quests, are very prohibitive and linear, and I don't like the degree to which you're forced to do them. I felt like one of my favorite things about classic WoW is that there's actually skill and nuance to leveling. You know, do you go over here
Mhm.
first or there first? Which way did you come up with a leveling route? You think about it, you refine it, and with Final Fantasy 14, I really dislike the leveling process. It's actually one of the reasons why I dislike retail WoW is also because the leveling process is very linear. If I feel like I'm kind of on a conveyor belt, just kind of chugging along, and it's like, oh, I feel like it's like a theme park ride. You're on like a slow moving ride, and it's like, oh, talk to this guy over here. Oh, then you kill this thing. Then you talk to this guy, and there's this NPC dialogue, and then this cutscene, and it's just very rigid. And I like to have a bit more freedom, which made Guild Wars feel amazing when I
Mhm.
played it for the first time, because you can there is a main storyline quest you can do,
Mhm.
and I've tried it out. I don't like it a lot, so I'm not doing it. And instead, I'm going for I'm leveling through doing dungeons and doing map completion. And I really, it's like an OCD thing. I really like the aspect of exploring the map and getting all the checkpoints and doing all the heart quests and doing the vistas. I really like the map completion aspect of leveling with Guild Wars 2. It's very satisfying, and you can do it in whatever order you want, right? You
Mhm.
completely can customize your own leveling journey. And then if, one day you feel like chilling and doing the MSQ a little bit, you can go do that, and then you can dabble with it in and out whenever you want. But Guild Wars 2 felt very restrictive with the leveling. And I knew that, like max level is 80 and I was level 50, and I was like, man, it's this is like a bigger how can I put this? With Guild Wars 2, I don't know if I'm going to like max level content. I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know. I don't really know what's waiting for me. But let's say I get to max level and I enjoy the leveling process all the way there, and then I don't like what's waiting for me at the finish line. Well, I'll just stop playing, and I can look back and say, well, at least I enjoyed my leveling process, right? At least I had fun on
Mhm.
the way up. But with Final Fantasy, once again, same idea. I don't know what's waiting for me at the finish line. I don't know if I'm going to have fun at max level in Final Fantasy, and I can't justify having an unfun leveling experience. Like, I can't justify a mystery variable when I'm not enjoying the current gameplay, which is the leveling process. So I just lost interest, right? But Guild Wars, at least it's fun on the way up for me.
And so, what about the actual story? Like for Guild Wars 2, was it the cutscenes? Was it the dialogue that you found boring, or like what about it actually deterred you from it? I mean, obviously, my big thing is exploration too, and I feel like I've been really excited about the story. So I'm kind of the
Yeah,
opposite. So
yeah.
I've been like every single thing I can interact with, I've been reading or interacting with it, but I'm really big on the map completion. And sometimes I feel like I'm going through the patches because I'm finally in Path of Fire, and that it's too fast. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this whole day and I'm just going to go back to something that I didn't complete before and complete it, because I'm kind of a completionist in that sense. But
Yeah.
so even though all of that is so great, what actually deterred you from wanting to do the main story? What?
I just never have I ever really been a story driven gamer. Like, I just don't like story games. I can't play single player games because they're pretty much all story driven games. There's a lot of NPC dialogue or reading or cutscenes. The only real single player game that I've loved has been Dark Souls, right? And you just go. Like, there's not really any hand holding or reading and dialogue. You just kind of do it and figure it out, and you just die over and over until you figure it out. And I like that. I just like, I'll be honest, I'm actually jealous of people that really get into the story of video games. I feel like I would appreciate and enjoy video games a lot more, and my horizons would be expanded a lot if I could play those games. But I don't know if it's like severe ADHD or what, but when I'm in a game, I just want to smash my buttons and run around and actually play my character, and not, you know, uh, the way I'll put it is like listen to NPCs talk to each other. It's just
Yeah.
not really my thing. What I do like to do is once I've sort of finished a game or I'll get to a point, I'll go on YouTube and watch a lore video. So I'll play the game maybe and then listen to a lore video so I know what I missed out on. But yeah, I mean, even with my favorite game, which is Vanilla WoW or Classic WoW, I don't know what's going on. Like, I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I just skip through all the quests, and it's not really forced down your throat or shoehorned, so you can do that. And this is a positive with Guild Wars, where I think the beauty with an MMO or a good MMO in my mind is that there's no objective right or wrong way to play it. You can just kind of play it however you want, and there's a lot of options. And with Final Fantasy XIV leveling, at least, I felt like I didn't really have any options. But with Guild Wars, with Guild Wars, you can, it's like I said, you can do the story sometimes, you can go do some completion, you can do some dungeons, there's a lot of variety with how you can level, and I like that.
No, that's amazing. And the reason that I was asking is because the delivery of the story for all of the games that we've mentioned is so different. And I feel like there are certain people who have said, especially in the past, that they couldn't get into it, like just in World of Warcraft. And that's just the way they ended up playing games, was because so much of the lore is actually in novels outside of the games and not necessarily in quests. So you would have a certain quest hub and things would kind of make sense for what you're doing, but it wouldn't connect to the next quest hub. And sure, the raid would have an overarching story, but that doesn't really connect with anything that you've been doing previously to get into it. And that's why I was curious about what made you step away from 14 as well, because there are a lot of people in 14 who think that if you don't like the MSQ or if you skip any of it, and that you're not getting the actual video game experience for Final Fantasy XIV. And so they think you're doing it wrong. So I didn't know if that was kind of the case. And in Guild Wars 2, yeah, it is amazing. So when people come in and they're like, hey, should I try this game? I'm like, A, it's free. B, it has no subscription. And you can level however you want. Like, you could level all of the way through crafting and gathering and whatnot. So yeah, so that's actually perfect. And speaking of Dark Souls, and coming from games where you had to have a legit rotation and couldn't dodge anything, to having all of these different options for utility spells, and having your abilities swap with weapons and being able to dodge, what do you think about the combat in Guild Wars 2 compared to anything else you've played?
Yeah, wow. I've heard people say that the Guild Wars 2 combat is kind of like WildStar, where it's very mobile and lots of moving and lots of dodging and lots of rolling. I never played WildStar, but definitely it is more mobile and fluid than World of Warcraft. That's for sure. And as far as like, I guess you could say it's like a hybrid of like an action combat sort of like rolly, dodgy kind of Guild Wars game with a tab target to traditional MMO. Yeah, it's fine. I don't think that every MMO has to replicate exactly how World of Warcraft plays. I think that's actually sort of a disservice to the MMO genre. Like, for example, I'm really excited for New World, and it's action combat. It's completely different. It's not tab target. It's very different. I like that. I'm down to try new things, so I'm enjoying it. And I'll talk about like the class design a little bit also. I feel like I've said this a couple times on my own stream. I feel like Guild Wars 2 class design and reading through all the talent trees and specs and tooltips for all your spells, it feels a little bit more like Magic the Gathering. I feel like I'm reading Magic the Gathering cards almost, where it's very nuanced, and if then, like if this, then that, and the spells kind of play off each other and they apply different conditions and stuff. It feels, if I could make a comparison, like Guild Wars 2 class design feels like Magic the Gathering, and World of Warcraft class design feels more like Pokemon cards. You know what I mean? Where it's just, I feel like a lot of MMOs make the mistake of kind of dumbing down their class design to the point where it caters to the lowest common denominator of MMO players. And Guild Wars doesn't feel like it's done that. Guild Wars feels like it knows its audience, a sort of, game like MMO gamer nerds, and they're not going to sacrifice that to cater to a different demographic, right? It's a little bit more complex and nuanced, and I like that too. Though I could see that being a negative, right? Where maybe someone who's a little bit more casual picks up Guild Wars and they start reading through their abilities, and they're just like, man, this is like too complex, right? I'm just gonna shelf this game and not play it anymore. I could see that being the case too, but for me, I like it.
Yeah. I love how I actually get that reference, because this is kind of dorky a little bit about so when you had actually DM'd me last night, I was downstairs learning how to play Magic.
Wow.
So I'm like, I totally get that reference.
It's recent. There you go.
But speaking of people not necessarily liking something like that and having that much of a complexity to putting together builds and knowing that you like it, how did you feel about the new player experience kind of being dropped into the game and there's no real tutorial. There's nothing to really point you. A lot of people say that there's nothing to point you in the direction that you need to go because it's so open. And some people
Mhm.
feel kind of overwhelmed by that. What did you think when you first started playing? Did you feel that way at first and then got into it? Or was it just, oh, this is so open, I can do whatever I want and learn at my own pace?
For me, that's my perfect type of game. I love the no guides, no hand holding. I just like to figure it out, and if that means that I waste a bunch of time or I die over and over again, that's fine. Like I said, like I like how hands off Dark Souls is. I like how hands off Vanilla WoW is. I like how hands off Guild Wars 2 is. You just kind of go. Now, like I said, my wife has been playing Guild Wars 2. She actually was trying to motivate me to get into it before I started playing. And she said the other day, she's like level 20 or something. She said, she doesn't know what to do. Like she feels kind of lost and she doesn't really know where to go or what to do. And it's not that motivating for her because it's all kind of very unstructured. For me, I really like that a lot. But like there is a demographic of player that they do want a little bit more guidance, and like I said, I could see that. For me, it's a strength in Guild Wars 2, but for a lot of people, I think it could also be a weakness of Guild Wars 2.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's kind of one of the things that we've been mulling over almost every stream because people are like, what are you going to do next? And I'm like, well, there's so many things. I kind of have a list. I don't know if I'm going to get them all done before End of Dragons, but hey, and
yeah,
it's actually amazing that you mentioned your wife wanting you to play, because actually my fiance is the one that got me into Guild Wars too, because
yeah,
I'd always
yeah.
played WoW, and then I tried 14 on a whim, and like you, I had a list of MMOs that I'd wanted to try, and I didn't get to them because of Guild Wars 2 and because I loved it so much. So with you being so interested in the game, did you actually purchase the expansions, or are you still trying to figure out if you'll enjoy the base game once you hit 80 and are just doing the trial?
No, it took me like 3 or 4 days to buy the expansions. Yeah, I knew like I'm just having a lot of fun with this game, and I'm gonna buy them. Also, I guess we can talk about like cash up or pay to win or pay
I
for
was
convenience
getting there.
functionality. You're getting there. Okay,
I was, but go
I
ahead.
think it
No, go
segues
ahead.
a little bit.
How do you feel
Um,
about it?
A lot of WoW players have or a lot of, I'll say classic WoW players. I don't know if it's so strong in the retail community, but a lot of classic WoW players have a really, really strong disdain for pay to win or pay to
Hmm.
skip or pay for convenience functionality. And I'm not a fan at all of it. Um, I really like that MMOs are sort of their own distinct social hierarchy, and it doesn't matter how wealthy you are or attractive you are or whatever your status in real life is. In the MMO, all that matters is that you're a gamer, and and I don't like paying for success or anything like that. So, but I understand. I live in the real world, and games cost a lot of money to make,
Hmm.
MMOs especially. And the reality is, like you mentioned earlier, is that Guild Wars does not have an initial purchase, and there's no monthly fee. And so, for me, it's a little bit tolerable for them to offer a little bit more functionality on the cash shop. Uh, and frankly, it's actually less functionality is offered on the cash shop than games like WoW, which does have a monthly fee and does have an initial box price. So it's, I mean, I would, for me, it's in my perfect MMO, there would be no pay for functionality, anything like that. But
Hmm.
Guild Wars 2, if you're going to compare it to some other MMOs, it's sort of a lesser of two evil situation. And
Yeah.
it's just the way that these games are these days, right?
Right, and I completely agree because I was going to get there with, especially for even retail WoW. Just with, I feel like a lot of people have become disheartened, especially coming from even the retail WoW community, because one of the things that they've seen is the WoW token, and the WoW token is, I mean, obviously it kind of runs like the economy, but it's more along the lines of there being a baseline for how much the token is, and
Mhm.
then the player actually getting to put the token up for whatever amount of gil after that. So a lot of prices will be very inflated, and then that player is getting all of that gold. And
Yeah.
so I actually was trying to explain to someone who had come into chat. I was like, well, the reason that I don't mind Guild Wars 2 Cash Shop is because, like you said, they have the base game, which could be considered their trial. A lot of people say, oh, you're not into the real game until you get to 80, because the full base game is the trial. And there being no subscription, I already was better about it because it's quality of life items. Should they always be purchased? No, but I'm like, it's quality of life. It's not something that's like you can, buy whatever. Like you can buy abilities or something like that, that are
Yeah.
better than other people's abilities, and they wouldn't be able to have them. You could argue there are a lot of people who would argue pay to win is a quality of life item because you're able to do something much faster than someone else, or with much more convenience, like you had said. But my thing was that the only things that you only have to purchase with real money are the expansions, and they go on sale all the time. And so you have those, and then everything else that you would get off of the gem store, you could farm gold and then convert it to gems and then purchase stuff. And people were like, well, that's just a conversion, and it's the exact same as the WoW token. And I'm like, well, no, because the WoW token is benefiting 2 players, whereas this is benefiting ArenaNet and 1 player, because they're farming to get the gems, and they're purchasing the gems off of the store from ArenaNet, not from another player who's gouged the prices, and then they're purchasing whatever item that they wanted. So they didn't have to play it with pay for like patches even for Living World. Has anyone talked about Living World with you? Have you looked at it or know what it is?
I know those are like maybe big content patches that come out every 6 months or so. That's kind of how it operates. Yeah.
Yep. So when you're logged in, if you're logged in when it comes out, you would get it for free. And then if you are not, you would have to pay. It's like $5 or $10 or something, but you can get it with gems. So you could farm gold and purchase it with gems, so you never actually have to pay real money. Obviously, it would be more convenient and quicker if you're one of those people who likes to have those things now. But long story short, that's kind of the reason that I was okay with it. And I feel like a lot of people from WoW don't understand because of the WoW token and then putting the store into. Did they actually add the store into TBC? Is it in game?
No, not in game. It's in the login menu, but they're like they're selling 58 boosts, right? There's no WoW token yet. There probably will be, but only 58 boosts right now, which ends up saving you about, I don't know, 5 days /played of game time, of real life time. So it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's kind of my thing, where I was just like, I understand people's disdain for it. But at the same time, if it was going to be done, I prefer it to be done the way Guild Wars 2 does it. How do you feel about it actually being part of the auction house? So when you open up the tab, and I don't know if you've really messed around with trying to sell anything, but how do you feel about it being right there and popping up right when you log in to start?
I really haven't taken a big look at it, honestly, because it's just something that I'm not going to use very much, frankly. Like far I have I've purchased 1 bank upgrade to double my bank space, which was like $5 or something. And outside of that, I bought the 2 additional expansions, but I don't think I'll be purchasing anything else. I guess I have a question for you. So in Guild Wars, just to clarify, if I decided that I wanted to just buy gold, is there can you do that through their in-game shop, or is that can you not do it that way?
You would have to purchase gems, and then you can convert the gems to gold, and then the gems, obviously, the amount that you would pay for the gold would rise or fall depending on what the in-game economy is supposed to be, because it's supposed to reflect real life economy. But
Sure.
You purchasing the gold, you doing that, getting the gems to get the gold. Again, it's being given to you by ANET too, so it's not like you're giving something that's real money to another player and they're in turn giving you gold, if that makes sense.
Right, sure. But, yeah, I mean, I think just generally, I think what it seems to be is that the value of gold in Guild Wars is less impactful, or it's less valuable than it is in World of Warcraft. Like World of Warcraft, their gold can, especially Classic WoW, you can buy there's a huge market for carry runs and GDKP runs where you're going and just buying loot from better players that are carrying you through the raid. You can buy gladiator titles. You can buy in TBC and in Classic WoW, you can just buy almost half of your best in slot gear, maybe more depending on your class. And it seems like gold is even if you have a lot of gold in Guild Wars, you can't purchase success to the same degree that you can in World of Warcraft. So therefore, like gold buying or gold selling in Guild Wars is less egregious than WoW. That's kind of my take at the moment, but I'm not level 80, but that's kind of how it's been explained to me. But it just seems like it's not quite as bad though. Like I said, I sort of just like inherently have a dislike for any time you're a success in real life. Like if you're an oil prince and you have, $50,000 ready to go. Like if you just want to drop 50K on gold one day in an MMO, I don't like that can directly correlate to your in-game success. Because I personally in MMOs, one of my favorite pieces of content is gold farming. I like gold farming. I think it's rewarding. I think there's a skill gap to it where you can be good at it or you can be bad at it, and you can practice at it. And I think there's like a psychological factor where players that do want to farm gold and play the game legitimately and not buy gold, they are disincentivized from doing that because in the back of their head they know that someone can just go buy gold, and so the 6 hours of gold farming you accomplished can just be purchased in 15 seconds by another player. I think it just makes you feel kind of like a chump, like you're wasting your time, right?
Yeah, no, I completely understand, and have been the same way in WoW, especially. Well, if when a lot of it was gold farming for like specific dungeons that you could go into, like the first room on a druid and just use Starfall, kill everything, gather like their cloth. Oh, what was it? I think it was like Netherweave cloth that was like absolutely ridiculous to get gold back in the day. But yeah, no, I completely understand, and there are actually a lot of people too with Guild Wars 2 that don't necessarily purchase the gold and really like to farm as well. And there are like guides out and stuff on it as well. And there's
Mhm.
TP barons for the trading post, which is like there are certain people that have so much gold from actually farming that I don't know if you've seen it, but there's literally something that you can purchase called a gold sink in Guild Wars 2.
Oh
It's
no, I
literally
haven't
a
seen that.
golden sink, and I thought it was clever,
It's
but
just a flex, yeah.
But going back to you talking about when you first started playing WoW, especially coming from Warcraft, that you thought the graphics were absolutely amazing. And you said you've also played 14, you've played RuneScape, you've seen some of WildStar, but not played. Is that correct?
Yeah, true, true.
How would you compare Guild Wars 2 graphics, especially without having DX11 compatibility currently, unless you use the DX12 add-on?
I
But what do you think?
Maybe I'm the odd man out. I am really not that graphically motivated. Like me, I really like more artistically stylized games. I think they age better. So I think a game. I don't play Fortnite, but I think Fortnite is going to age well because it's cartoonish and stylized. And 10 years from now, it's going to still look good. WoW, you log into vanilla WoW. It was made 16 years ago. It still looks good enough. It looks decent. Game like Minecraft, it has its own style and it ages well. Where I think games that are super graphically intense and they're super lifelike and realistic, give them 2 years and they just end up looking kind of creepy. That's kind of my take on it. So yeah, I think that Guild Wars has its own kind of style, and the fact that it's not cutting edge insanity graphics, whatever, doesn't bother me at all. Like it doesn't matter. I'll say as far as like that's graphics, as far as art styles, one thing that really turned me off from Final Fantasy was I guess generally I'm not a big fan of like the anime sort of Eastern art style. I
Mhm.
tend to like my MMORPGs at least to be more like medieval fantasy, Tolkien-esque, like sort of Middle Ages kind of vibes.
Mhm.
And I'm playing Final Fantasy 14, and I'm standing next to a cat girl in a castle, and then a flying Lamborghini flies over, and I'm just like, "What the hell is going on here?" Like, I don't know which age I'm supposed to be in. It just feels very awkward. It kind of takes me out of the vibe.
Mhm. It's actually funny that you mentioned that because I feel exactly the same way. When people were talking about why I wasn't into Final Fantasy XIV the first time, or even when I started playing Guild Wars 2, I refused to create a char and I refused to try out Engineer for a really long time because for me, I love high fantasy and very Tolkien esque, which is what drew me to World of Warcraft because it
Yeah,
was like if you're going to cook something for the most part it's like on a spit over a fire, you actually have legit hunters, you gather and everything. And I actually really disliked in WoW using like any of the blunderbusses because I hated the noise from the guns, and I really disliked even having engineer as a crafter because I hated the bikes, like the chauffeur, the
yeah,
sound drove me
yep.
nuts. So I completely understand what you're getting at. But speaking of which, has anybody, did you know that Guild Wars 2 ran on the DX9?
Oh, I heard a conversation about the other day, and that they're going to be upgrading it or something at some point soon, right?
Yeah, it's huge. So obviously, with doing the fashion wars yesterday,
Yeah, right.
you saw how big people are into their fashion, and so they use things like
Mhm.
the DX12 add-on, which actually increases performance too. So you're earlier in the game, so
Oh,
you've done like events and all of the hearts, and I'm sure that you've seen quite a few people out on the map. But later on, you can do things like there's like this big meta for, it's called Dragon Stand, and I won't give any of it away. I mean, obviously, you probably wouldn't care about story spoilers, but there's a lot of people, and people like joke about it being like, I have my 5 FPS trying to fight, like do these events and fight world bosses and stuff. So it's really big. But yeah, so, speaking of which, how do you feel about doing the heart quest compared to having to hand quests in? We talked about it a little bit for 14, but do you like that? Have you actually seen, when I started playing Guild Wars 2, I felt like I saw more people on the map, especially high level people, and
Yeah.
it was actually really cool. It felt like an actual open world experience. Did you have the same conclusion, or?
Yeah, it initially tripped me up because I've never played an MMO where you don't talk to a guy, do a quest, and turn it in. I was
Right.
like, oh, what's this? But so it took me like a half hour. I'm like, oh wow, that's how it works. Okay, but no, I like it. I really like the degree to which Guild Wars 2 encourages max level players to come back and complete all the leveling content. Like the leveling content is sort of evergreen in a way because even if you're 80 or you boost a fresh 80 character, you need to come back and do it again anyway for the sake of unlocking certain legendaries or for the sake of world completion or what. I don't even, there's probably more rewards than that. But, with most MMOs, and this is a fault of World of Warcraft or Classic WoW, where if you're max level, you don't need to go do level 15 quests. Like it's worthless to you. You don't need to do it. And with Final Fantasy also seems to be the case. So I really like this. You mentioned you're level 20 running around, and you see a max level character in Guild Wars 2 run up and run by you. I like that. It makes the world feel alive. Yeah, definitely true.
Yeah, it was kind of a really big thing for me when I started playing. Was I was like, oh, there's an open world. It's not just everybody gets together for like one world boss that spawns like every 2 to 3 days to get their one piece,
Yeah.
from WoW, or a hunt train in 14, which is kind of like you'll get a bunch of people together and you'll take on all of these what are kind of known as world bosses, or they're like S tier fates. But because you had so many people, it would take 2 seconds to kill, and then you wouldn't see anybody on the map after. It was so weird because everybody would just
Yeah.
be hanging out in cities waiting to queue. And speaking of which, I heard that you were you doing an explorable mode of a dungeon today before the podcast?
Yeah, the first two dungeons, Catechist's Manor and Ascalonian Crypts, I've
Mhm.
done all three exploration modes for both those now. And the way I'm doing it, I am making sure that the people are around my level, so they're the appropriate level, like they're level 35 or 45 or so, and
Mhm.
that they also don't have a ton of achievement points, which means that they're a Smurf character or something. So I'm taking noobs in there with me, and we're sort of
Mhm.
just like wiping for 2 hours and struggling through it. I think that's the best way to learn. I think that's the best way to have the most authentic experience. I'm not really a fan of like getting boosted through content. So I also think it's better content on Twitch. I think it's more fun for people to watch too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's actually funny that you mentioned that because I do that the same way.
Yeah.
But how did you feel about the dungeons in comparison to other games that you've played? Like, did you like that you actually have to be in front of the dungeon and have a group? Like, obviously not everyone has to be in there, but like you have to go in, you have to be the one that queues.
Yep.
And then did you like the aesthetics and like the extra mechanics to the dungeons, how there are traps, things like that?
Yeah, I think it's a great experience. And in fact, I've heard that they sort of phased out dungeons and don't really make that type of content anymore in place of fractals and just other, I don't know what all the other types of PvE content, but I've heard there's
Mhm.
not really many dungeons. They don't make them anymore. And at the moment, I'm kind of disappointed because I like them, but maybe I'll just like fractals so much and the other stuff that I won't really care about it. But yeah, like Guild Wars 2 does a really, really good job of getting people in the world and making them traverse the world and actually explore and get immersed. And I feel like retail WoW does not do that. Final Fantasy does not do that because there's so many menus. You can teleport here and queue for this and get auto matched with other players. I
Mhm.
like having to communicate with other people and explore the world. And we talked about Final Fantasy a second ago. I feel like when I was doing the MSQ in Final Fantasy, I was getting via the MSQ, I was getting chauffeured around these zones and just kind of guided through these zones. I never really had a reason to do a fate or do like a random fate that popped up as I'm level 27 or do some other random quests that are right next to me. I just have to do the MSQ and that's it. And because of that, because I was kind of shuffled around through this MSQ process, the zones were completely forgettable because I was so briefly in them.
Yeah.
I was just kind of pushed through them on a conveyor belt and spit out the other end. And with Guild Wars 2, I mean, you are incentivized to explore every inch of the zone, and you find a dungeon here, and you find a jump puzzle there, and you find a beetle race here, and there's a ton of. It's awesome. Like it's awesome. There's you are rewarded for exploring, and that's exactly how an MMO should be.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's amazing. And one of my biggest things with going into dungeons was not so much with classic WoW, but with retail WoW, unless you're doing like a Mythic Plus, you get to this point where it's just like, all right, I'm going in and most of this stuff is tank and spank for the most part.
Mhm.
And we're just going to pull wall to wall. And that's a huge thing in 14 where like healers don't even heal unless they absolutely have to. And
Mhm.
they will do more DPS over healing you and then just res you at the end so that they can have these room to room pulls actually. And
Yeah.
so a big one for me was even just in the story mode of the dungeons was having like spike traps that pop up or having like the little flames that shoot out and you get hit by two and somehow you have like 10 stacks of burning and you're almost dead, which is a lot of fun to figure out, especially with new people, even if they are smurfs and they're just saying that they won't help. So did you like the difference with the explorable content versus the story mode, like the actual, it's the step up in difficulty and having extra paths and having it actually connect to um, almost like the fallout of doing the dungeon to be.
Yeah, 100%. Let me talk about WoW for a second, and then I'll just bring it back to your point. I think I think a lot of problems that MMOs make, and retail WoW, Shadowlands for the last couple expansions also has suffered from this. They're designing dungeons or PvE content to be sort of sort of an esports venue. The dungeons with the MDI, the Mythic Plus, competitions they put on. Whereas with older versions of WoW, and this is a vibe that I get with Guild Wars 2 at the moment, is they're designed just to be an adventure, and you just kind of get immersed and lost, and you die to something stupid, and it's funny, and it's like whatever. You're not punished too hard, and it's just like a fun experience, and you don't feel like you are just it's I don't think MMOs have to be the most competitive, hardcore experience in the entire world to have fun. And I think that's actually one of the big selling points of classic WoW. And so yeah, playing these dungeons or and exploration modes in Guild Wars 2, from what I've seen, it's just it's a harder challenge, and it's it's a really fun adventure. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
And you'd mentioned that you'd done all of the explorable modes previously for like Caudicus Manor. And
Hmm.
I believe it was Caudicus Manor. I'm not exactly sure. And I think it was the Butler route. But there's like this guy at the end of this hallway, and there's all of these turrets that you're supposed to be blocking with this big shield gun. And I think that was the first explorable that I did. And it was funny because people were mentioning it in chat, and we kept dying and dying and dying. So I'm like, okay, I didn't see the guns at first, but now I see them. And how far can I be to actually reflect these projectiles? Well,
Yeah.
apparently you can't just dodge all the way to the end because they're still there and you have to actually get rid of these, and the area doesn't unlock until after. So, um, with all of the items that you can pick up and bosses like veterans, champions, and doing hero points, how do you feel about either having to hover over the target to see like their buffs and debuffs to kind of guide you to see what you have to do? And then the same thing in dungeons, especially explorable modes, because it's not completely spelled out for you, and some people dislike that. One of the big ones is break bars and defiance bars. Actually, having to break the bar, which will make it so that your enemy is actually stunned. You can do a ton of damage to it, and then it gets the bar
Mhm.
again, and you have to deplete the bar before you can do all of that. So I don't know if you've come into contact with that yet, without doing this mode,
Yeah.
but
I feel like I haven't even paid attention to it very much, honestly. I feel like I'm just so new.
gotcha.
With a lot of, I think a lot of MMOs suffer from this, where mechanics are made so complex that you sort of are pigeonholed into having to use add-ons, and add-ons just kind of interpret this information for you and spit it out in a more in an easier to observe way. And World of Warcraft is really really guilty of this. Like if you want to play WoW at a high level, you have to have a bunch of add-ons. You have to. And
Mhm.
so I don't know. I don't know if that's a big I'm not going to say issue, but I don't know if that's a big actuality in Guild Wars 2. I know you can get a DPS meter, but
Mhm.
are the top players in Guild Wars 2 running like 10 different add-ons?
Not, I wouldn't say 10 different add-ons. They definitely have DPS meters, and then there's something called TACO, which is tactical overlay, that you can run if you want to. But it'll
Yeah.
help with other things like jump puzzles for roots and such. But I don't
Oh, okay.
think any of the top people even use that for things like raids and such. So no.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, it's always come off as weird when you think about it. Like in order to play this game at a high level, you have to have a bunch of third party plugins that
Hmm.
assist you in playing the game. And then the eventuality of that system is that okay, the game designers have to design the game around people having these add-ons that assist you. And that's where retail WoW is like the game is so overly complex with their mechanics because they're designing the game around people having these add-ons that just completely spoon feed you a lot of the information. Where it's
Yeah.
like it's just and like any other game like Counter-Strike or any other game that there is, if you were caught using third-party plugins, you'd be banned. It's cheating.
Yep.
But for whatever it is in the MMO genre, it's sort of embraced.
Yeah.
It is sort of a weird thing. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that you don't have to have a lot of them in Guild Wars 2.
It's actually funny because when you had mentioned having like 10 add-ons and leading raids, I don't know if this was ever a thing for you, but because my group, I would have to like get after them because I would call out literally everything and they still wouldn't pay attention. So we would end up having like DBM, uh, loots for raids, like RC Loot Council, angry assignments, so people could actually see when they needed to do something.
Yep.
It was raid tools, especially for one of the biggest ones that I was talking about was for HFC. I don't know if you actually raided in Warlords of Draenor
No, I didn't.
or HFC. Oh, okay. Because there was like an orb on Iskar that you had to pass around, and if you didn't, people would fly off the platform in Mythic, and so you would have to toss them the orb and then do it in a certain amount of time so other people didn't fall off the platform. Because if they did, you couldn't res them, and so it was a big thing. So it is actually funny too that you mention in like Counter-Strike you wouldn't be able to use those because going from WoW to 14 for me was really weird because of having that crutch, especially as a raid leader. And when I played 14, it's like you're not supposed to use any third-party add-ons. Like they even
No.
frown upon DPS meters. It's a gray area, but you're not supposed to use any at all. And I think it's kind of for Guild Wars 2, like the DX12 add-on is like they know that people use it. They don't really care. I think like for Arc, it's not a big deal. They know that people use it, but there are certain things for Taco, especially for jump puzzles, that other people will get after you for. Not necessarily devs, but other people will be like, wow. We actually, Muck and I had picked on Teapot. So there's this big event. It's a jump puzzle event called Super Adventure Box.
Mhm.
And it's more than a jump puzzle, but Teapot actually went through the whole thing using Taco for a friend. And so Muck, just another streamer, had completely memed him for it. So it's not necessarily a dev thing. It's more of like an other player things picking on you. So I
Bullied for
heard
it.
you
Yeah.
did jump puzzles like one of your like within the first week that you had started streaming Guild Wars 2. What did you think?
Yeah, I actually have spent my entire life hating parkour and video games and jump puzzles, and then I played Guild Wars 2, and I think they're awesome. I think they have done them really, really well, and you are like you get items and you get XP for doing them, and it feels really cool. But yeah, like prior to Guild Wars, I thought that I hated them. I thought because I'd never found another game that has done them as well, and so now I'm like every day scheduling into my gameplay sessions, doing one or two jump puzzles because I like them so much. I think it's awesome. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, it is. I like how there are actual achievements for them. And so you'll get to one. We did one that's called Not So Secret. And then after that, technically, if you keep moving, there's
The
another
goggles.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, I didn't want to spoil it because I wasn't sure if you'd gotten there. But
No, I did that. I got the chest, but not the goggles. So I need to get the goggles later.
So did you do speaking about not wanting help from people and doing things in groups, like when you did it, did you want to map the path yourself? Did you have a guide? Did you end up using mesmer portals if you got irritated enough?
No, no portals. I mean, so when every time I do a jump puzzle, there's always like 30 or 40 people just kind of like jumping around, and I'll tell them like, hey, kind of let me lead the way. But
Mhm.
it's hard to like someone's always going to kind of like point which direction. So ideally no one would lead me, but I think it's an inevitability that someone in a situation like that is going to kind of like jump the right way, and it is what it is.
Right. But that and because like there might even be other people who are doing it too that aren't even part of your
Yeah,
group
true.
that like
Yeah,
jump
true.
past you. That
Yeah,
happened for
true.
us for Chalice of Tears, which is another big one. That unless you've gotten obviously further in the game, you haven't done yet. But we ended up getting to this area, and one of the things that I thought was really cool was that, yeah, I had people from stream, but it's one of those jump puzzles that people have to do for like a legendary, I believe it is, or
Mhm.
some sort of collection or achievement. And so there were just people there that were like, wait, can we come with you? Can we join your squad? And I just think that's so cool for playing an MMO, because I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to play with people. So um, speaking of, have you actually, when doing, you said that you were really big into map completion for, have you done like hero points and such, like for combat?
Uh, you mean the hero points, the points on the map where you have to like go attune to the thing or
Yep,
kill
you
an
would either have
NPC
to
or
attune or kill an enemy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. So I'm not leaving any zone until I have completed it. So I'm level 47, and I have completed like maybe 6 zones at this point, and even the other like level 1 to 15 starter zones, I am making a point of completing those first
Hmm.
before I move on to higher level zones. So I I have like a list of goals before End of Dragons comes out, and I want to have 100% completion and do all the raids and do all the fractals. I want to be totally. I want to have done everything pretty much that there reasonably is to do before the new expansion comes out. And 100% map completion is absolutely one of them. Absolutely.
But before End of Dragons comes out, that's what
Oh
you want
yeah,
to do, all of it before then?
yeah. 6 months. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
What's like
I'm
what's
not
all
chuckling, but I said that I wanted to do that, and I add new things to the list every day, and there are certain things that I still haven't even done yet. One of the big ones is PvP. I've gone into the PvP lobby and 1v1 some people in the guild, but I'm just like, I have not done even close to what I've wanted to complete thus far, and I've been playing for 4 months. So that's why I was
well.
curious.
Let
So do
me
you
let me
have
let me
like a schedule that you're going to adhere to for each thing to make sure you get it done?
let me put it this way, okay? So classic WoW lasted 18 months, and I spent 225 days slash played logged into the game playing. So
Yeah,
I don't know what that is. That's like 13 hours a day on average. Okay, so
something like
when
that.
I when I'm looking to play an MMO, I want an MMO that can destroy my life. Like I want to forget to feed my goldfish, right? Like I'm looking to absolutely have my life go to tatters because I'm so addicted to this game. That's kind of my goal. And so right now, for me, that's how I feel about Guild Wars, and I'm playing on stream. I'm playing a little bit off stream,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think I can. I can. I mean, why? Tell me what my problems would be. Tell me why. Okay, so I can easily do 100% map completion. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I'm already maybe 15%. I've been playing for a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No problem, right? The fractals, as far as I know, those have scaling difficulty. I don't know if like I don't know how they work actually. So um, I think they go up to level 100, right? Fractals.
Mhm.
Is 100 really, really hard? How hard is that?
I actually have only just stepped into fractals. That's why I was.
Okay.
That's why I was saying I wasn't chuckling at you. Like I was. I wasn't laughing at you saying that you couldn't
Yeah.
do it. I'm just sitting here comparing what each of us has done. There are some people that think they're hard. There are some people that think they're not. But then you have all different tiers. So when we were talking about dungeons, they essentially the team that was doing dungeons ended up not being a thing. And so they realized that people still liked content like that, but that a lot of people said the dungeons took too long, and so they started fractals. And so
Okay.
fractals, if you have a good group, you can complete very quickly, but it's a cross between the sort of the dungeons that you've seen with some extra mechanics, like a couple other things I've mentioned that you haven't seen yet, like break bars and such. And I won't obviously go in depth with that, but there's also like a portion that's a jump puzzle as well in it for a lot of them. And then the tier, there's 4 tiers, and then the difficulty scales for each tier, and then there's like fish for each.
Okay. So there's the fractals, and then there's what's the other? There's raids. How many? And so fractal is 5 players. Yeah. Five players in a group, and then there's the raids. How many people are in a raid group?
Raids are 10.
Raids are 10, and
And then
I've
there's
heard that
also
those.
strikes.
So what is a strike?
I haven't done them yet. I can't tell you.
Okay,
Chat could probably tell us.
Jack can tell us.
It's kind of the content that they had promised for raids and such, and then it was like the same thing between dungeons and fractals, where they're not doing the amount of raids that they promised, so they are putting in strikes. So they're easier than raids currently, but in End of Dragons, I'm pretty sure you saw the announcement. They're going to put in challenge modes. So kind of like raids for me, I've done both Wing 1 and Wing 2 for normal, and then there's also challenge mode. So it's kind of
Okay.
like a comparison between. It felt like for me like a Mythic WoW dungeon versus Mythic Plus. Like I don't even know if I would say it's between like and this is just for Wing 1 and Wing 2, like heroic rating in retail WoW versus like Mythic.
Yeah.
But strikes are easier than raids, but they're going to be challenge modes, and I feel like that's kind of like they're making up for not having tougher raids in End of Dragons. But there's also those. Anyway, was what I was getting at. And
All
then
right.
your map completion currently being at 15%, that's 15% for the base map.
Oh, and there's bonus expansion maps.
Right.
Okay. And so I've heard that the raids, like the actual 10-man raids, are comparable in difficulty to like World of Warcraft heroic raids. They're not quite like mythic level raids.
No. At least Wings Wings 1 and 2 that I've done, probably like early heroic bosses, I would say.
Okay.
From the ones that I've done, but obviously people will like arguably say you haven't done the tough ones yet and whatnot, but from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to experience all of it. I'm excited. I've heard that there is an issue where if you've been playing Guild Wars for 9 years, you might feel like you kind of don't have a lot to do because you've done all the raids, you've done everything, you've already kind of chipped everything up. But as a new player, and right now there are a lot of MMO players that are looking for a new game to play. The MMO market right now is like totally, there's like an earthquake going on, and everyone's like looking to take cover somewhere. And a lot of people have ended up playing Final Fantasy. And I'm sitting here thinking, having played WoW and played Final Fantasy and played Guild Wars, Final Fantasy and WoW being the two, people perceive those to be the two biggest like competitors right now. I'm sitting here thinking like, why are more people not playing Guild Wars? Because I'm having way more fun playing this game than Final Fantasy.
So that could be a little bit toward our next topic. There are a lot of people that say that because they don't know that Guild Wars is still a thing, that it hasn't been until recently a lot of marketing for that. And I don't know if you would like disagree if you had seen some kind of marketing, but for me it was like my fiance kept asking me to play, and I was like, no, I don't know if I'd like the combat. No, I don't like if I'll like I don't know if I'll like the horizontal gameplay at the end because I'm so used to. Patch comes out, new raid comes out, new gear comes out, farm it for that gear so that you can be on top of the game for the next patch, for the next raid. And that's not the way Guild Wars 2 is. And so I was like, I'm not sure. And so a lot of people, the meme is that Guild Wars 2 is dead because nobody knows that it's even still alive. And so a lot of people say that ArenaNet relies on their ArenaNet partners to promote the game. And so they're trying to give it more presence on YouTube, and that they don't have like enough creators, which is why it's so big that people are talking about all of these WoW refugees coming over, because they're like, oh, they're bringing people from a different game and maybe those people will try it. And now we have more creators as well. So I'm not sure if you've seen that, if you've seen like a lack in marketing before you started playing, but yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
I mean, prior to a month ago, I haven't thought about Guild Wars 2 in a long time. Like, I said, oh wow, and people are playing. Okay, let's check it out. But it's interesting about the streamer marketing aspect. I think one of the reasons why Final Fantasy started popping off, maybe Final Fantasy 14 popped off on Twitch maybe 2 months ago, is because they were running a promotion. Square Enix, right? They were running a promotion where they partnered with a couple Final Fantasy 14 streamers, and they said, listen. If people, and it was through Twitch also, so if people gift 4 subs in your Twitch chat, you will, the gifter will receive a mount in game called the Big Black Chocobo. It's like a big stupid bird. And
we called it the BBC back when I played, and
the
people
BBC.
were just like, really? You used to be able to get it from an Amazon promotion. I'm sorry, continue.
Oh, okay. But I mean, what happens, Twitch is very interesting in this way, where a couple streamers start blowing up because they're getting a ton of gifted subs and they're getting more viewers because of this promotion is going on. And then other streamers take note, wow, this streamer is being really successful. They're getting a ton of subs, they're making a ton of money, and their view count is through the roof. I want a slice of that pie. I want to go stream that game. And that, namely, this happened with Annie Fuchsia, where she's a friend of mine. She's a WoW streamer, and she would average maybe 500 or 600 viewers in the WoW section. And she hopped over to Final Fantasy, and she got on board with this offer. And she went straight from like 600 viewers average to maybe 5,000 viewers average during the first month of this promo. And she got like 25,000 gifted subs, that's a lot of money. And so other streamers say, oh my God, maybe I should go stream Final Fantasy, right? And so a lot of people, and then Asmongold hops over, and a bunch of other streamers hop over, and it's sort of writes itself. At that point, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of game companies, and I don't know a whole lot about ArenaNet or NCSoft or anything, but I think to underestimate the power of streamers and the marketing power of streamers is a big mistake, because I would attribute a lot of this Final Fantasy hype right now to this BBC promotion that they ran. That's it. And of course, there's other factors at play, but that was a huge factor. So I would be very eager to talk with someone that works at ArenaNet about some sort of promotion like this, because I think it would be it's absolutely huge. And I think I've looked at their it's essentially an affiliate program, the partner program that they have with streamers, where you get you get a kickback if one of your viewers buys Guild Wars 2, right? That's how it works, from what I understand.
It's a don't ask, don't tell policy. But
okay, well, yeah, sure. But I mean,
yeah, you get supported by ArenaNet for being able to sell their items.
Yeah, I don't. I don't, to be honest, I don't think it's particularly a very motivating offer. It's a hard sell. Like, I don't think it's that great of an offer for the streamer or for the viewer. They don't get anything special or unique for it. They can get the game anyway without you. Like, they don't need you. It benefits the streamer, but as far as I know, the viewer doesn't really get anything out of it other than the game, which they were potentially going to get anyway. So I think having something unique like the BBC offer with Final Fantasy, it's stuff like that is so easy to do and has such a big impact, right? You know, they did this offer at the cost of making one new mount. How long does it take to make a new mount? I don't know. They have your art team work on it for a couple of weeks, and boom, you're done. And look at what it's done for Final Fantasy. It's been explosive. Think about the return on investment there. So yeah, I mean, they could easily do something like that with Guild Wars 2, where it's like a really, really cool mount skin, where if you gift subs or you're waiting for a drop or something, watching your favorite Guild Wars 2 streamer, you get a really, really cool mount skin. And what happens is your view count's going to explode. Mighty Teapot's view count is going to explode, and he's going to have a ton of success. And other streamers in the Final Fantasy section who are second guessing their decision to play Final Fantasy, they're going to say, wow, Guild Wars 2 is popping off. I want to come play Guild Wars 2. And then they're exposing their entire community to Guild Wars 2, who forgot that it was even a game. And it's just a win-win situation for everyone involved. Mm-hmm. They absolutely should do something like that if they're not already thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I agree with most of what you're saying. It's funny because the whole idea was to have the podcast be like new player, but now I'm over here going, we're getting into the deep subjects, which I wasn't expecting. But yeah, no, we can kind of unbox this a little bit more. So for the big thing with Final Fantasy XIV too was that when Square had actually released this, the stuff for the big black chocobo, it was a list of streamers, and they had been contacted. I'm sorry, my dog's freaking out. And those streamers had been contacted, and they'd been essentially told what was going to happen, and they were added to a list. And it brought obviously a ton of hype to the game. Yeah. But there were a lot of people who obviously were also really upset because they weren't on this list, and they felt like there wasn't enough representation for different types of streaming communities on this list. And so there were a lot of people who were putting out all of these videos about their having like depression or anxiety because they weren't picked, or not knowing why they weren't picked, and not liking that Square wasn't transparent in what they were doing for this campaign. And so quite a few people were upset, and that day there were a lot of smaller streamers who didn't get it, who streamed a different game. And so it's just kind of funny that for those creators, it was kind of like it wasn't as big or as great, but it still got even more viewers for Final Fantasy XIV, because those same people thought that they were like, well, let me give you a list of content creators that didn't get onto this list. Let me give you the real list of people you should check out. And it was actually funny because all of these people's viewership, to essentially, I guess, boost people's self-esteem or whatever, all of these people started getting more viewers as well. So it was like they were
Yeah, of
trying to
course.
show up this whole thing. And so it was kind of, without even meaning to, they also boosted Square Enix's popularity with other people on like Twitter and stuff by being like, I'm going to feel offended for this person. This person wasn't on this list. You should go watch this person. And then people actually did. So it was like, it wasn't even just the big black chocobo and the people that could get the gift subs. It was people also being like, well, yeah, why didn't this streamer get it? This streamer is hilarious. And also watching this person. And so they thought they were making a statement, but it was actually blowing up the category. And
yeah,
so
it's an
it was,
interesting dynamic, right? Because first and foremost, I mean, as a streamer, your value to a company like Square Enix or ArenaNet is your potential, is your marketing potential, right? And so if it's a marketing opportunity, they're looking at how many people are watching you. And there's a difference between someone that has 50,000 viewers and someone that has 5 viewers. Just that is their marketing value. It's insanely higher, right? It is what it is. Now, at the same time, even though small streamers might not realize it, every section wants to have an Asmongold. Like if Guild Wars 2 had a 50,000 viewer, it would. There is such a thing as this is maybe political. There is such thing as trickle down Twitch viewership, right? Where this
okay, that
huge
is the
streamer,
most political term. That's so fantastic.
It literally is a thing where, and I can tell you, in fact, I benefited from this a ton as a WoW streamer. Where there's a really big WoW streamer section, and he or she goes offline, and all of those viewers who maybe aren't familiar with that game are looking for another streamer to watch who are also playing that game, because maybe their streamer they were watching plays a warrior, but they're new to the game and they're playing a warlock, and now they're going to go look for a warlock streamer who's in the same section, and then I play a warlock and I get a ton of viewers. And they're like, it really is the case. So just because if you're a small streamer, you were not picked for a promotion like that, having your section on Twitch blow up and be higher in the Twitch directory, and having a ton more viewers exposed to your game that you're playing and that you have an intimate relationship with, a lot about it. That is to say, it's only going to benefit you. It's not going to do anything negative for you. It's going to only benefit you.
Absolutely. So they're being able to have this mount and have it as a kind of like a sponsorship for everything. And obviously they partnered with Twitch as well, Square Enix, for gifting these subs. They had to have this as a prize for them and Twitch. So obviously there's money involved for Square. There's money involved for Twitch to be able to have this essentially like a promotional spot, almost like an advertisement. And then also the people that are spending money on the streamer as well, which obviously get a cut of that. A lot of people have said that they didn't think that ArenaNet had the same promotional ideas, or that they did have the ideas, they just didn't have the manpower because ArenaNet is so small. So how do you feel about that as an argument for not being able to make sure that the game is promoted in certain ways, like this big black chocobo? Because obviously the team for ArenaNet and the devs are so
I completely understand not having a high budget to pump out a really expensive cinematic video for your expansion or whatever. That's fine if money's the thing. But I really do think that taking advantage of the streamer talent that your game has in this case, people like you or people like Mighty Teapot or Muckluck or whatever, it would be easy to do. It would be easy and it would be cheap to do, and you'd probably just have to have one, typically the role is called partner manager, where each of these big or community manager or something like that, where they have someone that's overseeing this. And maybe ArenaNet doesn't have a good relationship with Twitch, because you have to work out something with Twitch as well. But I would speculate that Twitch is eager for opportunities like this also, because Twitch makes a ton of money, because every time someone gifts a sub, Twitch makes a bunch of money also, right? So it's good for ArenaNet, it's good for Twitch, it's good for the viewers, it's good for the streamers, the big streamers and the small streamers. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if they're not currently pursuing this, they definitely should be. What I would do if I'm thinking about this, let me ask you about this. Do you know when, because I've seen Guild Wars 2 on the Steam launcher, but it's not there yet. Do you know when they plan to add Guild Wars 2 to Steam?
They keep saying that it's going to be a thing, but it keeps getting pushed back for other things. They don't actually have a release date yet. A lot of people are hoping it'll be around the compatibility with DX11, or allowing DX11 to be utilized within game and the EOD expansion. So they don't have a date for it yet. It is supposed to eventually come out, but that will be huge when it does.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely the smartest thing they can do is have EOD launch, and within a week or two of that, they pop it off on Steam. Also, it's available on Steam, and then they're also running a streamer promotion at the same time. Like during the launch month of EOD, they have some sort of Twitch streamer promotion. If they want, and they can do this because there are a lot of people that are thirsty for a new good MMO, and I think this is the vibe I'm getting. I think that after 2 months or month and a half of people playing Final Fantasy, a lot of people tried it and they're not happy with it. That was my experience. It's okay. There's some redeeming qualities, but it's just not the game that I want to play full time. And I found Guild Wars, and I didn't know a lot about it. I didn't know that it was still being developed. Like I didn't know anything about it at all. I haven't heard about it for a long time, and I tried it, and it's great. And it's still they're pumping out content for it. If they really want to blow this game up, they have a chance. And it's when EUD comes out, put it on Steam at the same time, and offer some sort of promo on Twitch to get people engaged on Twitch also, because Twitch is such a huge and relatively cheap advertising venue.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, one of the things that they're doing currently is they have in-game loot for Prime Gaming, which people have been mentioning in chat. So the thing with that is, and people are mentioning it and saying that they're getting on top of promotion in that area, is some people aren't really excited about that because it's more geared toward new players. So it's kind of like a 10 slot bag or something like that, a mini pet, karma, and things like that. So yes, it is a thing, and I'm really excited about it, especially for new players, because it's an incentive for new players to try the game, especially if you have Prime Gaming. So on top of the game being free, the subscription being free, you get all of these in-game items. So there is that, as well as that for veteran players, for them to stick around, it's not huge for them. But the other argument, and I'm not sure if you've heard this either, is that the community for Guild Wars 2 is a different demographic. So a lot of people might play the MMO because it's more of an economy game, because it's free to play, doesn't have a subscription. Although there are quite a few people who buy things off the store, so the idea might be, unless they get it with gold. But that sales for certain items for them to make money and to for the actual promotion of the game might be lessened, because those people are looking at it as an economy thing. So having something for Twitch and having it be like, gifting 5 subs if they were to try to do the same campaign, that the Guild Wars 2 community may be less apt to do that because they're already playing Guild Wars 2 because of it being an economy game. So I don't know how you feel about that, but that's another one of the arguments.
Well, yeah. So I mean, you need to make the rewards make sense. So the whole I'm first time I'm hearing about this Prime situation, but it's like, yeah, how many? Let's be real. How many new players are there Guild Wars 2? Probably not a whole lot, right? So offering a reward that only a new player is going to benefit from, there's a lot of variables, right? It's okay. First off, are you a new player? Did you hear about Guild Wars? Are you trying it out? And do you watch Twitch? And do you watch the specific streamers that have this enabled? There's like 3 or 4 barriers preventing anyone from actually caring about the promo. You need to offer something to get your current player base involved in the advertisement, so you can sort of weaponize your not weaponize, but utilize your current players, incentivize them to watch streamers, blow up the section, which brings more streamers. So you need to have a reward that intrigues your current player base, right? So you mentioned sort of the nature of the game. It seems like a ton of people love mount skins and love cosmetics and love fashion wars and fashion shows and love looking a certain way. So why not have, Twitch exclusive, cosmetic appearances, or Twitch cosmetic mount skins that you can only get by watching a streamer on Twitch for X amount of time or by gifting X amount of subs? It's such a no-brainer, right? Because that is something that your current player base loves. It's going to inflate your streamers. It's going to rise the section on Twitch, and it's going to bait new streamers into the section. Yep. And it's so, and I guarantee you, like, I'm sure, every company has like some sort of market analytics team where it's like, okay, it's going to cost us $17,000 to develop this new skin because we have to pay the artist and the graphic artist and get it in the game. But I mean, the gamble is you're giving this out on Twitch for, which is kind of for free to you, but the money you're making back is new players into the game that are eventually going to spend money on your game. I think it's, other games have determined that that's a worthwhile endeavor, which is, what Final Fantasy did with the BBC, right? And other Twitch drop promos and stuff. So obviously it seems like a wise move.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of subs and stuff, I'm sorry, guys. Thank you for the Prime subs and the Tier 1 subs. I've never done a podcast live, so I'm like not paying attention to chat. And I just thought, so thank you. I appreciate it. And speaking about getting bigger streamers to play certain games, obviously it would be really huge for the category for Twitch. That obviously would come up on your homepage. It would be more for recommended and would get a lot out there for the game. But I also know that there are a lot of creators for Final Fantasy XIV, like I was talking about with the list for they didn't get on for this promotion, saying that they don't actually like having people like. I've actually watched Asmongold's journey. Co Carnage I've watched for a while, and he started playing, so I do know he's playing as well. Rich Campbell, a lot of people, obviously Annie Fuchsia as well, that these smaller streamers, whilst also being excited about their game growing more, they're excited that they're now pushed even further down the chain. So a lot of people that have posted things on Twitter were saying that like they don't want Asmongold to play their game because they like their viewership and they don't want it to be lessened because of someone like Asmongold playing their game. So I don't know how you feel about that. If we can get even more into the deep stuff, so.
Yeah, so
Since we're on the
they're trying to inhibit the growth of their games community because they're afraid that they're no longer going to be a medium-sized fish in a big pond. They're going to be a small fish in a big pond. Like that's it's entirely self-motivated and entirely selfish. I mean, like I said, also these guys are all growing because of big streamers in their section.
Right.
Like you can there's the metrics to support this. Like you can see it happening. So it's seems uneducated and short-sighted. It's just a stupid opinion. Like there's no other way to put it. And like this is maybe a toxic take of mine, but I mean there's a reason why big streamers are big. It's because they work a lot of hard. They work a lot of hard. They work really hard. They make a lot of content and they're entertaining. Like the difference between a small streamer and a really big streamer is that the bigger streamer tends to be harder working and more entertaining.
Yeah,
That's the truth. That's the truth.
I agree.
And so I would say like if you are worried about like if you're worried about someone more entertaining taking your viewers, I would just say be more entertaining. Like I don't know what to say. That's my take.
No, I completely agree, and that's why I was like, "Oh, this is how I feel." But it's just kind of funny. And we'll get back to the game in just a second, and we kind of got a little bit off topic, but it's kind of why I like doing these podcasts because for the most part, I have chat and I try to be entertaining, and then it's fun to actually sit down with someone else who does this, not necessarily the same thing as you, but obviously tries to be entertaining, and it's their full time job. And I feel like there aren't a lot of times where you can actually hang out with someone and see if they feel the same way as you about certain things like this, especially for promotion and stuff. So I really love doing these. But speaking of businesses and things like that, and you actually mentioning that you do try to play the game off stream, do you feel like you need to set time aside to play Guild Wars 2 off stream, or do you feel that there's certain things while you're trying to be entertaining on stream that you might have on the back burner to play when you're off stream? Or do you feel like you play more on stream rather than off stream?
So before I go to, I wake up, I do morning stream. So before I go to bed every night, I will sort of write out a script of point by point what I want to do on my stream. I'm going to watch this video. I'm going to read this forum post. I'm going to do this dungeon. I'm going to do this beetle race. I'm going to do this jump puzzle. I'll kind of have it scripted out. So I know, because I hate to be in the position when I'm live on Twitch where I just like don't know what I'm going to do next. I'm like, guys, well, I hate having that feeling. So I'll kind of plan it out. And there are things that I like to do in MMOs. For example, I am going to complete all of the main story quests in Guild Wars 2. I just personally don't think it's very entertaining for my stream, at least. I just think it's not maybe what my viewers want to see, and I feel like I have a hard time making that content entertaining. So I'm just going to do that off stream, and I'm just not going to do it on stream. I'm going to save more like high octane stuff for stream, and if that means that I have to spend an hour or two each night kind of getting my character ready to do that, then I'll do that. But yeah, I try to intentionally save all of the really exciting stuff for when I'm live, and then the boring stuff, which is like cleaning out my backpack and salvaging gear. I just try to do that off stream because it's just not good content. So I try to be very intentional with why I stream and why I don't stream. But yeah, they're like the reality is a lot of MMO gameplay is kind of like grindy and boring, and so I try to keep that stuff off stream and save the fun stuff for a stream.
No, I completely agree. And have you ever had something completely scheduled out and you're like, yeah, I'm only going to focus on this for stream and then get off that course a lot of people say it's just kind of a Guild Wars 2 thing and that they actually like it. So you start out doing one thing and then you're kind of doing your map completion and you find like this like underground cave in the water that leads to a jump puzzle or something, and you end up doing that instead of what you had planned out for the day. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, it happens. I actually spent 90 minutes doing beetle races today, but I got gold at the end, so it was worth it. But that was not on the agenda. I did not think I was going to do that, but it was worth it. It was worth it. I
Yeah.
got gold.
And when you play off stream, because of obviously the two different the two different feels when you're trying to be entertaining and do like that content versus kind of getting stuff prepared and playing the game for yourself after stream, do you do community things after stream, or do you kind of just like get on and play the game for yourself like solo or like wife?
I tend to play games solo off stream or play with like very close friends or play with my wife. The community aspect off stream is more constant Discord shit posting. But yeah,
I've noticed.
that's kind of what it is. Yeah.
Sorry. And
But
it's actually
I do think I was going to say I do think that having some sort of like Discord movie night or Discord like where you're just playing random games with your viewers in Discord in the evening, I think that has a lot of value. I really do. And I would say that that's a fault of mine is not doing more of that. I think that's actually a very good thing to build a sort of camaraderie and allegiance with your viewers, right?
Mhm. And it's actually the reason that I was asking was because I had played when I swapped to Guild Wars 2 from Final Fantasy 14. The reason was because I'd kind of burnt myself out streaming 14, and it made it so that I never wanted to play the game off stream because of what I did on stream and with the community. And so I felt like
Yeah.
that was lackluster. And when I tried Guild Wars 2, I'm like, I'm going to play this all the time. And then it still ended up being, for the most part, only on stream. But I do play the game with my fiance like afterwards, but it's like making time for it. So I was curious to see how someone else actually delegated that and if it was delegated. So
No, it's hard sometimes. Like the other day, I was running around and I found a jump puzzle randomly off stream, and I was like, "Man, I would love to do this, but I'm going to save this for Twitch because I want them to have to see me do it for the first time, or I wander upon a new beetle race or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I would love to do that right now, but I'm going to save it for later."
yep.
Stuff like that. There's even you might have noticed I watch a lot of YouTube videos on my stream. I kind of
Yeah.
mingle them in. And sometimes I'll see a video in the evening when I'm chilling and it looks interesting. I'm like, man, I'm going to watch this. Actually, who would love to watch this is my Twitch chat with me tomorrow. So I'll save it, right? Situations like that.
Yep. Okay, so I'm not the only one because my fiance will be like, "Oh, they just released like the new Elite Spec teaser. Do you want to watch it?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. I
Yeah,
have to watch
exactly.
it on stream." And then I'm probably going to
Yep.
make it into a YouTube video. And he's like, "Okay, but I want to watch this with you." And I'm like, "We can watch it together on stream. You can turn my stream on the laptop."
That happens all the time. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And speaking of you saying that you wanted to start getting into raids, you kind of touched on it a little bit yesterday while we were doing the Fashion War stuff. So when we get there, are you planning on eventually learning how to raid lead for Guild Wars 2? Are you just going to put in to get a group with a bunch of like noobs, a bunch of smurfs? Or are you planning on having people who know the fight that can kind of guide you if you can't get it afterwards, trying to fight something blind for a little bit?
Here is what I found with raid leading in World of Warcraft, and we were doing like speed runs, and we were going for server first and stuff like that. And so we were pretty good. We were a good speedrun guild, and I was leading the raids all the time and guild leading. What I found is that on Twitch, at least, the shit show raids always are more fun for Twitch chat. Chat gets to laugh at you, and it's funny because we can do a speed run where we're over in 22 minutes and we don't wipe and no one dies. Or we can do a normal run where half of our raid is full of dumbasses and we're stuck in there for 2.5 hours. And so you get way more content, and the content is better. It's hilarious. And so what I want to do is find ideally players that have not done the raids before and go in there and brute force our way through it and have to struggle and learn. And if we wipe for 3 hours, then we wipe for 3 hours. So be it. And yeah, that's kind of gonna be my approach, I think.
And so when you used to do that for World of Warcraft and you had stream up, did you find it difficult to raid lead, especially with everything that you were trying to keep track of, as well as keeping chat engaged? Or did you even engage with chat until like you were in between pulls?
So this is actually one of the big reasons why I stopped raid leading at the end of Classic, was because I felt like the time investment with leading a guild and raid leading and everything, I felt like it was making my stream worse to a certain degree. Like when I'm raid leading, you're right, I can't focus on my chat as much. I can't be as funny. I can't be as goofy. So I actually sort of intentionally joined more of a casual guild where we wipe all the time. And I think the streams, the raiding streams, have been way better because it's just a shit show. I think it's just funnier.
Right.
So that's what it is. So yeah, I think it's hard to raid lead and do really any content in a video game where you really, really have to focus and ignore your chat. It's hard to make a good stream out of that. It really is, which is why I think if you look at the WoW section, a lot of the super high level, arena streamers, like you have rank 1 multi-glad, like 10 arena seasons in a row, or MDI super competitive mythic plus players or top raiders, and they get like 15 viewers, right? And it's because they're playing at a very high level, but because they're playing such at a high level and focus so much on the game, their content quality suffers because they just have to completely ignore their chat. And so I think there's a fine line. At this point, I think I have to give up on my MMO ego. Like I've decided, you know what? I don't really care about doing insanely hard content, because I think doing hard content typically makes streams more boring. That's kind of my take at the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. Unless for certain categories, it's mainly like what. I guess it's weird because I feel like there's a certain dynamic for different categories. Like one of the big things for 14
Absolutely.
is either going through the MSQ for the first time, everybody gets really excited about it, chat is going crazy, or there's people doing savage content, which is like comparable to mythic raids in World of Warcraft. And those people obviously, like you said, are not able to look at chat, which is why I asked the question. And so their chats might have the most people, but are completely silent. And it's kind of incredible seeing that dynamic. So it's like, just like you said, you might get like more people here, but you would get more lurkers than anything. I don't really know how it would work for Guild Wars 2 if people didn't talk to chat, because only the people that I know of that do content like that I know of actually talk to chat and kind of meme it the whole time. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think as an MMO streamer, the number one type of content you can make is content where you get your viewers involved on a mass scale. So things like fashion shows, or I don't know if you can do this really. I've thought about this, doing like a mount off. This is stuff we would do in WoW, mount offs or transmog competitions, or you get like 100 people together and you ride out to go kill a world boss, and you're all mounted up and running next to each other. And it just it's epic, right? It's badass. Moments like that are what make your Twitch viewers feel like they're part of a community and feel like you're just like they're part of the show, and getting them involved is badass. So it's just like little things. Every time I'll get up and go pee, I'll zoom in on my character and have my character dance, and I'll have viewers just come up and dance next to my character, and they get to be on stream and they get to like dance along to the music I'm playing. And it's just like stupid little dumbass things like that people look forward to. And I think it's awesome too. And so I'm always trying to think of ways to get more people, more viewers involved with what I'm doing in the game. Yeah.
So can I ask a bit more of like a different question that isn't about the game then? Speaking of doing mount offs and transmog contests.
Sure.
Do you watch Asmongold's transmog contest YouTube videos?
No, not the videos. I've seen a couple of them live. But yeah, I've seen a couple live.
Have you participated in a transmog contest?
I don't think so. I went along to one of his raids one time that he was doing, but I haven't done a transmog contest.
Okay.
I have a bad artistic eye. I can't. I am not good looking in game.
So I asked because a lot of the things for the Fashion Wars that we were helping to judge yesterday, and I use quotes for that because I don't even know if I actually helped. But a lot of the things that you were saying were like things that you were noticing were things that I've heard from, because I used to avidly watch Asmongold's transmog competitions on YouTube because I never got to see them live. So it was like there were a lot of those things that Asmon would mention in almost the exact same way that you did. So I literally
I feel like, it's not so fun. It's like, oh, well, your boots doesn't match your shoulders, and, your pants are slightly off color. It's like, okay, who cares? Like what, like you're like, the point is to make people laugh pretty much, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
And so Yeah, so if some guy comes up and he looks like a bobblehead, you call him you call him like a, you dumbass, you look like a bobblehead. Like, why is your head so big? Like that. Like, and it makes people laugh. So that's the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you actually get into fractals, are you planning on doing fractals the same way as you do with raids, like taking a group in there and just being like, let's see how far we can get to getting to 100?
Pretty much. Yeah, I think finding a bunch of noobs and seeing how hard we can push it is the best way to do it. I'm more concerned about like what's going to be fun on stream and less about what's actually going to be the best fractal group in the world. I really don't care so much about that. As long as it's going to be fun on Twitch, that's kind of my goal.
Mm-hmm. And I did see that you were live and streaming all of the announcement showcase for End of Dragons, and you had mentioned that there were a lot of things that you wanted to complete until then. Are you planning on avidly playing when End of Dragons comes out? Do you think that once you've completed the other expansions that you'll still be as into the game as you are now and actually go through End of Dragons content?
There is a scenario where I hit level 80 and I do all the content, or I am just not enjoying the content and I get bored and quit. I don't know. Like I don't know what's at the end. I can't speak to that. End of Dragons could come out and it could be terrible and we could all get bored and we all quit. Who knows? Mm-hmm. I want to I'm going to play as long as I have fun, right? And so leveling, I love it, and I love the community interaction with all the people that show up and we do stuff together. It's great, and I have a checklist of stuff I want to do before then. But I mean, yeah, like I could get to 80 and everything is terrible, and then I quit. I'm going to be honest. Who knows? But yeah, I would like to go into End of Dragons as long as I'm having fun, as prepared and ready to go and competent as I possibly can.
Oh, and I forgot to mention for chat as well, since this is the first time I'm doing a podcast live, if anybody has any questions that I didn't touch on and you highlight it, I'm actually going to have my fiance take those into account so that I can ask them for you. I don't know how much time you have. I have a couple more questions before I do that.
So
we're not exactly sure how
much. That's fine. Okay. We're good. Yeah, we're good.
Cool. So if anybody wants to do that, if you have any relevant questions, please make sure that they're highlighted so that my fiance can double check on them. So when you had watched speaking of which, and saying, you might not like End of Dragons, people might not like End of Dragons, it might not hit expectations. When you watched the announcement showcase, what was your favorite thing to see? Like what stood out to you most?
I actually only watched for the first 25 minutes and then I tuned out and I started playing the game actually, because what I realized was, man, this was on day 5 of playing this game, right? When I watched the showcase for about a half hour. And I was like, man, because they were going over the new, I was watching the new Necromancer spec that they were going to release. And I was like, man, this is so complex for me as a player who's been playing for 5 days. I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. All this information is completely lost on me. I couldn't even name my current specs. let alone this new spec. I don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so I just started playing the game again. But that I guess was a realization in and of itself, was that, man, the class design is really deep and nuanced. And it actually kind of motivated me to continue playing and learning about my own class so I could be ready for the new stuff, right? It kind of got me excited, even though I became aware of my own incompetence pretty much.
Right. And right was not the reaction that I should have said. After you saw all of that and seeing all of the new classes for their elite specs, I know that you said that you don't know the names, but it got you excited about learning more about your own class. Did you try any of the elite specs for the beta, or did you decide that you wanted to save that for End of Dragons?
I didn't even log into the beta. No, because I'm level 47. I don't think there's a point in me testing 80 content, and I haven't even played the current content, right? So yeah. I'm just trying to go slow, and I feel like by going slow, I can kind of soak up as much as I possibly can. I'm trying not to go too fast, actually.
Right. No, that makes complete sense. And actually, I had a little bit more of a question that is different from the game that I wanted to ask before I go to other people's questions. So again, guys, if you have something that you would like me to ask, let me know. Highlight it in chat if you can with your channel points. But I saw that you have your own product. You have gamer caffeine gum. What is that? Are you still going through production and selling that? Can you be a little bit of a shill for your product, if you would?
Yeah, this sounds like a sponsored question.
So
No, well, it's kind of a long story. So I guess 8 or 9 months ago, I guess rewind before that. About 3 years ago, I got sick of drinking energy drinks and coffee. Like coffee always, upset my stomach, and energy drinks made me feel like shit. And I tried caffeine pills, and they always didn't digest well, and I didn't like them. And
Mhm.
so every sort of, and I used to be big into bodybuilding, so I tried also pre-workout powders for before I would sit down and flip on a stream. And I was just sort of unhappy with all of the current caffeine products. And so I actually found caffeine gum online. I was like, oh wow, caffeine gum, let me try that. And so I chewed this other brand of caffeine gum for, I don't know, probably 2 years, and I loved it. Well, let me put it this way: it was the best caffeine product I'd ever had, but it wasn't perfect. The dose was a little bit low, flavor was kind of off, and it got me thinking, like, what if there was a caffeine chewing gum with like vitamins or vitamin D or vitamin B, because these are typically vitamins that gamers, people that spend all day inside, are kind of deficient in. And so about 8 or 9 months ago, I started this process of sort of, I used to be a biology student before I started streaming. I was wrapping up my biology degree. And so I was like, what if I just made my own that has vitamin D and vitamin B and caffeine, a higher dose, and a unique formula and flavor. And so I found a manufacturer that's on the East Coast, and I was like, hey dude, can you make this gum for me? And this is what I want. Here's the flavor, here's the formula. And he's like, yeah. So I found a manufacturer that does this and makes stuff like this. And so I started a caffeine gum product business. And after a couple COVID related delays, it's ready. I have a bunch of caffeine gum. It's called Power Gum, and it's sort of like I made as a product. I made it something that I would like, and so I'm hoping that other people like it, because I kind of made it specifically for myself to
Right.
to make sure that it's good. And so yeah, we did 1 month of pre-orders. This is maybe 2 months ago. And we sold $22,000 in Power Gum in 1 month. So I was selling it to my community, my viewers on Twitch, and people in my Discord. And so a lot of people were very supportive and excited. And so we actually started shipping just in the last couple of days. And some people in chat have received their gum already. It's kind of exciting. It's starting to show up at people's houses, and there's been a lot of positive reviews. And so at this point, the plan is to start making sales again, because after the pre-order period, I stopped selling it because I wanted to make sure that those people got their gum and we got the shipping sorted before we started selling again. And so now shipping is sorted. It's like next day shipping. If you order, it's going to be next day shipping. And I'm going to start. I'm going to open up the floodgates, and the entire plan is to start sponsoring other streamers, to sponsor streamers that to do that. So I think it's going to be great. I'm very optimistic about it. I'm excited about it.
So could I be added to that? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah. I have a long list of streamers that I'm looking forward to working with. Yeah, 100%.
So do you actually have like distribution for this, or are you shipping things out like yourself, or do you have people that do that for
So
you?
I have a manufacturer on the East Coast who makes it, ships it to me. And then the plan was, I set up my entire garage. We bought a new house recently, and I set up the entire garage as sort of a little distribution center. I have a bunch of shelves and a little desk and a computer out there and a printer. The plan is to do it myself. And I was like, you know what? Really, what happened was the pre-order period. I sold way more gum during the pre-order phase than I thought I would. And I was like, shit. Okay, so I need to probably have help doing this. And so, incidentally, I found a viewer. A viewer emailed me. He said, "Hey, stay safe. I've been watching your stream for 2 or 3 years now, and my family, they live 30 minutes away. We have like a local shipping business, and we typically ship shoes, and we ship internationally. But we're trying to break into other markets, and we would love to work with you and help you ship your Power Gum." And so I went down, and there's like 4 brothers and a dad and a mom, and all their wives work in this warehouse with an office out front. So I drove down there. I've been down there 3 times and met their entire family, and they're helping me ship Power Gum. And so I'm paying them to help me ship out Power Gum. And so it's great. They live 30 minutes away. And so that's how I'm doing it. So, and that's actually better for everyone because they are experts at it and I am not. So I think that, delegating work and paying people who are experts to do things is important if you're trying to get into business, I guess, or do anything really at all.
No, yeah, that's awesome. And just the connections that you're able to make from stream and like having that community, like, oh, hey, this is what I do. I would
Yeah.
love to help out and I'm really good at it. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, here it is. I have a box. Actually, there's
Yeah,
a sleeve.
people were
So
asking if you could show the gum pile, and I was like, I don't know if that's a thing that
the
I can
gum
actually
pile.
ask. I don't know if he can move his cam, but yeah.
There it is. If you order a box, you get a box like this, and on the inside there are a bunch of sleeves, and so that's it. And then you pull out the sleeve, and there's little gum tablets, and so in each of these there's vitamin D and vitamin B and caffeine, and that's kind of what it is. That's kind of what it is. It's good,
Yeah, no,
and it
that
tastes
is
tastes kind of minty and vanilla-ish a little bit.
awesome. Minty and vanilla. So we did
Minty
have a
vanilla.
couple of really good questions.
Okay.
One of the main ones that I saw that I was excited about, because we kind of went over that you weren't super big on the story, just because you're really not big into story. But someone had asked what your other negatives for Guild Wars 2 are, if any.
Oh, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna give you a weird one. As far as the story goes, even though I don't like to do story-based leveling, um, I've noticed with the story-based leveling, let's say you hit level 20 and you unlock the new segment of your story, you can do all that story exclusively, and by the time you're level 25, you will have finished that segment of the story, and you won't be able to start the next segment until you're level 30. So there's a lot of downtime with the story if you're doing the story exclusively, which is for some players, like we said earlier, they can feel kind of aimless if they're not being guided, right? I like really open-ended leveling, but as my wife as an example, she feels kind of aimless and she likes to do the story and she likes having a little bit of guidance with where she should go. And so I think maybe actually bolstering the story content a little bit, even though it's not what I like, but to help other people that level differently than I do, or maybe just giving more XP from the story to kind of fill those gaps would help a little bit. I also, and I think this is a common complaint, I really dislike the amount of trash items and random things the game throws at you. There is too much loot in this bag. I spend about a half hour every day just managing my bag. I'll spend maybe 4 or 5 hours leveling and then a half hour figuring out what the hell is in my bag. And of course, I don't know which item is valuable and which one is not, so I have to alt tab and Google it. And then I try to delete an item that is worthless, and it says I have to actually type in the name of the item into the delete bar. And so I'm sitting here trying to type in some weird lore name this item has into the bar, and it's just inventory management is a little bit of a headache. So I would trim down the amount of shit that you get in this game. That's what I would do.
Yeah. I love how
But
there's an achievement for that for trash collector too. Like you legitimately called it trash, and there's an achievement for trash collector.
it is, yeah. I think it'd be a pretty easy fix too. I'm trying to think what else. I feel like there was something else, but it's not coming to mind right now. Really, the inventory is the biggest pain in the ass that I've experienced so far, is managing all the items that it gives you.
Yeah, I get picked on for mine because you're like, yeah, I'll spend a half hour, taking care of mine like once in a while, and I'll forget, and so I'll sit there and
Yeah.
loot and loot and loot until my inventory is completely full, and I actually have extra bag slots and 20-slot bags, and then I'll open my inventory to find something, and people are like, "What the hell is that? What is wrong with your inventory?"
Yeah.
But there were some people asking in chat. So you said you tabbed out in Google. Do you use the /wiki command in game, or did you know about it?
I
Have you
have heard
used it?
about that, but no, I haven't used it. But someone told me one time, yeah.
Yeah. So that's I do know. I don't know if it will actually help because I don't use it and I forget. But if you /wiki an item, if you don't know the actual relevance or if it's okay to sell or whatever, there are some that if you tag it into the /wiki, the page will actually come up and tell you if it's even okay to just remove it from your inventory and or if it's worth selling or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's a big
I
thing
mean,
too.
I would say generally it's not good game design to have to reference a Wikipedia page in order to know if you want this item or not, right? I think that's generally it's nice that functionality is there in game, but it's why,
Yeah.
Why is it even an issue in the rather than put a bandit on the issue, just fix the issue.
Right. And another person had asked, have you looked at World v World yet? Have you participated? And if you have, what are your thoughts?
No, I have not. I'll tell you, my favorite thing about classic WoW is these giant, 80 versus 80 or 40 v 40 world battles that happen in classic WoW. And I was, like I said, I was the raid leader and stuff. So calling the shots and saying, hey, these guys push left and we're going to push right here, and drop your AOE there and whatever. That's really fun for me. So I am very excited because it's been, I haven't watched videos, but it's been explained to me that that's kind of what World vs. World is. So I'm very excited. And like I said, I think some of the best stream content you can have as an MMORPG streamer is content where you get your viewers engaged, right? And so I think it's going to be great to hit level 80 and then say, all right, boys, I need 100 people. We're going to queue World v. World, and we're going to go rinse out. I think that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and then especially for End of Dragons, it's supposed to be alliances instead of the actual worlds versus each other. So you won't have to really, at least the thought process is you won't have to worry about what server you're on. And you can just queue with like guilds or an actual alliance group, which is really cool. So this one I feel like is a little bit of a meme, but quite a few people have been asking, when are you going to use both weapons? You are almost 50, lol.
Yeah, you know what? It was a goal today. Really, the situation is I'm using Scepter Warhorn, and it's just so fun that I haven't even cared to do anything else. But I think I'm gonna listen. I actually equipped a staff today. I equipped a staff. I didn't use it, but I equipped it. So that's what I'm gonna do.
I feel like that was mentioned earlier in chat too. Stay safe. So excited about equipping staff. Never uses staff.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna use it.
See, it's different for me because I play Elementalist. So even though I have 2 weapons equipped, there's no weapon swap for Elementalist because you swap elements.
Oh, nice.
So only when you're out of combat can you actually swap for what you perceive the situation to be.
There it is.
Another one was, what is the biggest thing that you miss about both Classic and Retail WoW?
About Retail WoW, man, I could talk about Classic, but about Retail WoW. Mechanically challenging content. Like I don't think that Classic WoW is particularly challenging, the content, at least the PvE content. And Retail WoW has that. Like if someone says, you know what, stay safe, I don't want to play Classic WoW because mechanically the content is too easy, so I play Retail WoW. It's like, yeah, it's a very, very fair critique. Like, what am I going to argue with you about that? No, of course, that's a very true complaint about Classic. What I miss about Classic WoW, I've never found an MMO that rewards and incentivizes and fosters and encourages player interaction and teamwork and communication and social networking. And I think the whole social experience of Classic, that is what every MMO should aspire to be. I feel like a lot of MMOs have kind of lost their way as far as being MMOs. Like a lot of them are RPGs, but I feel like MMOs have kind of lost their way insofar as they don't really capitalize on the social aspect as a lot of the old MMOs do. So that's my thing. But I mean, Guild Wars is not quite to that point as Classic WoW is, but it definitely is more social than any other MMO that I've found outside of Classic. That's how it feels to me.
So another one is, I know that you've done story mode dungeons and explorable, and that you've fought certain things in the world with your 100%ing areas. So I don't know how well this question will be able to be answered because you haven't hit the other features in the game like raids and fractals and such. But just with the completion in the dungeons you've done, another person has asked, coming from being like that professional WoW player where you've gotten 260 in like 6 days, do you feel like the game for Guild Wars 2 is challenging enough for you?
I don't feel like Classic WoW is a particularly challenging game. Like that's kind of my take. And so I think you read the question from one of my biggest chat memers, by the way. I think that question was a little yeah, no, Classic WoW is not really that challenging of a game mechanically. There's a lot of nuance to it, but like at a base level, it's not that challenging. So, like I said, if I had to compare like Classic WoW game design to Guild Wars 2 game design, it'd be like comparing Pokemon to Magic the Gathering. It's just a lot more complex, and there's a lot more nuance to it. There's a lot more depth to it, and that's something I'm excited about with Guild Wars 2. In fact, I think this is a pro Final Fantasy. I think that Final Fantasy class design is really, really good. Also, it's just that the leveling is so boring for me. But yeah, it's I am excited to do some harder content, like mechanically harder content, and have a little bit of a deeper sense of class design in Guild Wars 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And we did kind of cover that, but I was like, I'll ask just in case. What is your favorite zone in the game that you've completed so far or that you've seen?
Oh gosh, my favorite zone. You know what? Let me log into my map real quick. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the names of the zones. You know what? It's Queensdale. Actually, it's Queensdale. Yeah, and of course, I've only been to like 5 or 6 zones, but out of the zones I've been to, it's Queensdale. I like it a lot, and typically my favorite zones are snow zones. So I think once I get to some snow zones, I'm gonna like those the most. But as of now, it's probably Queensdale.
Mine too. My biggest one was that was the reason why I started on a Norn, because you start in Wayfarer Foothills and half of
Oh,
it
really?
is snowy mountains. So
That's badass. There you go.
yeah. And so let's see. We had a couple of other fun ones as well. You did mention that you didn't check out the elite specs for the beta, because obviously you're level 47 and you're like, why would I do that? But some people had asked, you saw the original announcement, so you saw Virtuoso, obviously, and you eventually saw Harbinger, which was the Necromancer later. Have you seen all three? And do you think all three of them that we've seen so far look good or look fun?
I really totally
I added a
cannot
bit to
even.
that.
I hate to say it. I totally cannot give any input on any of the new talents or specs or anything. I'm completely clueless. Like I don't even know all of the ones I currently have. I'm still trying to process. There's a lot of it's good. There are a lot of different ways to play your character or play your class. There's a lot of variation, right? And that's good. And they're adding even more. So great. But it's just a lot to learn. It's a lot to soak up.
And what did this so this is one that I had, this bias that came about for Asura and humans. How did this bias come about for those races?
I mean, it seems weird to be a human in real life and then log into this like fantasy universe where you can be a talking cat or an alien midget or whatever, right? You can be a talking, piece of lettuce. You can do whatever you want, and then just say, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna play a human male. It's like, well, you're a human male in real life. Like, why would you do that? So it's a little bit boring, but play the game how you want. But I kind of like to just get crazy with it. So
Male
yeah,
warrior.
yeah, there it is. Yep.
So, from what you've heard so far, do you appreciate the soundtrack, especially in comparison to World of Warcraft? I think one of my biggest ones was the Barons for WoW. For
Yeah.
retail WoW, it was Grizzly Hills back in the day. Was
Yeah.
huge for me. I don't know if you rated during Wrath, but Arthas, My Son, and Invincible were really big for me. Has anything been as memorable as that so far in Guild Wars 2? Or do you at least like the music? Does it actually have the right ambiance for you?
It has the right ambiance. It feels very fitting and appropriate. It's very nice background music, but I don't think anything has like popped as much as like the Arthas theme song or something like that, right?
Yeah. I think that was how I felt until getting further on with the story, but I'm a big story person, so that was why. Obviously there's a lot in store for
Yeah.
you as well. So
Yeah, I feel like it's probably true. Part of it's like understanding the story and having some nostalgia with it. Like when you think of the Arthas theme song, you think of the Wrath of the King trailer and all of the story and the emotions that have been built up and led to that point. And so it's very moving. But there could be some really epic song, but there's no meaning behind it because you don't know like what it's tied to, and that's going to kind of take away from it a little bit. So yeah, that's very true.
Mhm. And I feel like a lot of it also is just having those like memories and stuff that might be tied to it as well, especially for Classic and getting to play Classic again when Vanilla was your favorite, like having the ties from those awesome events to that music too, like even just as a player socially, not even within game, that you have like all of that too. And people are also asking, what is your fondest memory in game? I don't know if that was supposed to pertain to Classic or Guild Wars 2 or both, but we could go with both if you'd like.
Yeah, I guess we can. Let's start with Guild Wars. We're talking about Guild Wars. My fondest Guild Wars memory. Oh my gosh. I'm going to be honest. Every time I go pee, I get up and I play rap music and I have my character dance, and the dance lines up perfectly with the rap music. And then I have like 15 other Asuras come up and stand next to me when I'm AFK and they all dance next to me. I love coming back from the bathroom and seeing an army of Asuras dancing along to the rap music. That's awesome. That's the best thing ever.
No, that is awesome. I had another kind of a fun question. If you had to save a race from dragons, I don't know if you've encountered both yet, would it be Skrit or Quaggan?
Grit, I guess. Yes,
Do
Grit,
you
I guess.
actually like this grit? You kind of wrinkled your nose at the question.
Well, I mean, they're better than the Squaggin, right? It's the best of a worst of a worst. What's the word? Whatever the lesser of two evils. Whatever the phrase is. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
I love both. So I
There you
think
go.
they're both fun. I like the voice acting for both, and that's another one too. How do you feel about a lot of stuff having ambient dialogue and being voiced rather than just a quest box that comes up that you have to read through?
Yeah, I love that. I don't when I'm playing an MMO or a game, like I really don't want to read a whole lot, and so just having it verbally spoken, that helps a lot. Like I cannot fathom people that like watch anime with subtitles. It would drive me insane. Like it's just too much reading. I'm trying to relax and flip my brain off and just kind of grind or whatever. I have to read. Like if I just go read a book if I want to read. I'm not trying to read a book. So yeah, I think it's really nice. I think it's really nice. And also the way Guild Wars 2 did it, or sorry, Final Fantasy did it. It's so weird where it's like 90% of stuff is not voice acted, and then you'll just like have random interactions where it is voice acted. It's like, okay, why? Where with Guild Wars, it's everything is done really really well, and the voice acting is all really really good. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of like story based gaming, but yeah, like I think they did it as well as you could do it.
Right. And there have been some questions about Guild Wars 1 that you obviously wouldn't know because you haven't played Guild Wars 1, so I actually have one for
Yeah,
myself. Are you planning on playing Guild Wars 1 since you like Guild Wars 2? They're
I
completely
am
different
not.
games, but
I know,
no?
I know. I'm not going to play Guild Wars 1. I think there is legitimately a type of game that is uh just, and this I might make some people mad. There are games that you can like today that are sort of because you grew up playing them. So for me,
Mhm.
I wouldn't really recommend RuneScape, old school RuneScape to people because I think most people that play it, they like it because they played it back in the day. And there's a bunch of games like that. Probably Diablo 2 is one of those games also, or StarCraft Brood War, where it's good. It's good because you grew up with it, right? And not, yeah, it is what it is. So that's kind of what I'm assuming Guild Wars 1 is kind of like.
Mhm.
Um, but no, I mean, I like I said, I'm kind of looking to the future. I want to enjoy games that are currently being developed and that there's new content, and stop looking in the rearview mirror 20 years in the past and kind of play new games, new exciting stuff that has new stuff coming out.
That's actually the way you worded it is perfect because that's what I was trying to get at for originally when people kept asking me if I was going to play Classic. I'm like, well, I didn't get the experience, so I'd like to, but it's so
Yeah,
weird living someone else's nostalgia factor because it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
nostalgic for
sure.
me. So,
Yep,
um,
it's fair.
but the question that came off of that was obviously you've seen the Char, you've seen the humans. How do you feel about Char eating humans in Guild Wars 1?
I didn't even know that was a thing. Uh, wow, isn't it weird that like every single MMO is just entirely based around racism? Like World of Warcraft, the Horde versus Alliance, and that's the premise of the game. And then you come into Guild Wars 2, and it's just we hate them and they hate us, and that is what it is. So maybe someday we'll have an MMO where there's no racism. That's the dream. That's my answer.
All right. Well, if that's the dream, what would be? You said that for your perfect MMO, you would be able to like to do all of the things and not really have restrictions. Can you expand on that a little bit? Like, what exactly would be your perfect MMO? Would it be like high fantasy esque? Do you prefer like the active combat versus the tab target combat? The scenery, the way that PvP would work. Do you have an actual idea of that?
Oh man, a game that's coming out that does character progression or class progression really well, I think, is actually New World. I played a lot of the New World beta, and I really like that if you invest enough time into your main character, you can do everything reasonably well. You just have to sort of level up all the weapons. That's a good system for me. Um, as far as like the art style or lore or like general environment of the game, yeah, I like the sort of high fantasy Tolkien-esque medieval castles and caves and stuff like that. I like that a lot.
Mhm.
um, I'm gonna be honest, like part of me is kind of bored of tab target MMOs, and of course, I'm really enjoying Guild Wars. But I mean, we have all been playing tab target MMOs for 20 years or 15 years, and I feel like it's been done, and it's been done so much, and it's also been done really well. I'm actually I'm not saying I don't like them, but I'm actually open to new experiences. Like I know a lot of tab target MMO gamers are like, "Ooh, New World, I don't like this." Like, well, it's like, if you don't like it, there's 10 million other tab target MMOs to play. It's just I give games that try new things credit for just trying new things, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm excited, but what's perfect? It's hard to say. I don't know if there's a perfect formula for an MMO, right? It's a
Mhm.
really hard formula. It's a really
Yeah,
hard job. Making a good MMO is a really, really hard job. It really, really
absolutely.
is. And there is no pickier demographic of gamer that will complain and whine more than MMO players. We're probably the whiniest gamers on the planet.
Right. Oh, and I'm sorry, guys. Thank you so much for the raid guild, and thank you guys for all of the gift subs. I've been just focusing on this, so thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. Please don't think I don't because I didn't mention it a couple of minutes ago. But so yeah, it's kind of one of those things, and the reason that I ask is because I feel like a lot of MMOs, depending on if they're like Eastern or Western MMOs, are either more story and PVE based or more PvP based, and I think from what I've played and from what I've seen from other people that I think it's mainly World of Warcraft that has a best of both worlds scenario. Until I
Yeah,
played
sure.
Guild Wars 2, I love that there are raids, but there are some people that haven't even touched raids in Guild Wars 2 because the combat is so good and they're able to really mess with that in PvP, like ArenaNet PvP. So that's why I was curious. And we have
Yeah.
another. Someone remembers that you had a problem with Guild Wars 2 not being one seamless map like WoW. Is that still a
Oh.
problem for you?
Yeah, I guess we can double back to their question. In my dream MMO, yeah, the world would be totally open and seamless, and there you would not have instances between the different zones. But that being said, the Guild Wars 2 zones are so big and it's so easy to get immersed in them that I don't even really notice it so much. It would be an improvement to get rid of the portals between the zones, but I don't even really think about it at this point. With Final Fantasy, when I was playing Final Fantasy 14, it was always like in my face that you are in an instance and these zones are not connected in any way, really, other than just having a portal between the two. It felt very, very, very disjointed, which completely took me out of the like fantasy world immersion. I was like, ideally, if I'm playing an MMO, I can sit in a dark room and I can forget that I'm playing a game. I'm just completely absorbed by it. And with and that I'll say that's so many things, like the UI has to be good and sleek and not uncomfortable to use. And when I'm playing Final Fantasy, yeah, I'm reminded I'm playing a game. It sometimes feels clunky. Mobility is limited, it feels like, and you're going between the zones, and it kind of takes you out of it. And yeah, with Guild Wars, I can just sit here and kind of just game out and flip my brain off and kind of forget that I'm even playing a video game in the first place.
Mhm. And taking you out of that immersion and not having the maps be open like World of Warcraft, with the extra features that come with that, how do you feel about like the taxi services and how they're displayed in different MMOs? So like with WoW, you have the flight paths that just take you through everything, and obviously it can take quite a long time to get there, especially with Classic, unless you know like the perfect area to take like the ship or the Zep or whatever
Mhm.
um, for later on in retail. Um, how do you feel about the way that it's presented in World of Warcraft versus like 14 and Guild Wars 2, where in 14 it's Ethernet, which are little shards, and then obviously for Guild Wars 2 you have waypoints, which are kind of close to the shards. And
I was really worried about not having mounts in Guild Wars 2 until level 80, right? When the leveling process having not having a mount, but I think the fast travel system is done really, really well, and it's integrated so nicely into the world exploration and map completion aspect of the game. I think it's done really, really well. Um, I am a big fan of world immersion. Like, I think it's really, really important to an MMO, and I think this is something Final Fantasy really fails at. Guild Wars 2 does a pretty good job, and Classic WoW does a really, really good job. I actually think I probably have an unpopular opinion, but I think also travel time is important. Like, running across the Barrens, I think that's really important to feeling immersed in the world. Even, a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's too much running. Ah, I feel like I'm wasting my time." It makes it feel a bit more real. I like that. I like that. I think a lot of people don't, but I like it a lot. And I think that Guild Wars 2 is a really good middle ground for a lot of people. Like,
Mhm.
I understand why people might not like the travel time in a game like Classic WoW, but Guild Wars 2 I think is a good middle ground. I think it's probably a bigger appeal as far as that sense of world immersion goes.
Yeah. I completely agree. I'm the same for that. And I feel like it's easier for me to explore and notice certain things, especially on foot, that I might have missed previously if I was on a mount. And so I don't know if you came into this circumstance, but I would always have a lot of people coming into my chat being like, are you going to boost to 80 and get the raptor? It'll be a lot easier for map completion. I'm like, but then it's not
Oh,
organic. So I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know
true.
how you feel about that. And like um, did you purposely wait to get them out? You said that you were a little worried about not having it until 80. So how do you feel about
Uh,
that situation?
well, I mean, I'm level 47. I still don't have a mount.
Mhm.
I I'm going to be honest, okay, and this is, I guess, a downside of Guild Wars 2. When I hear that a game, that an MMO is offering level boosts, that says to me that it's sort of an acknowledgement or admittance that the leveling process is so inconsequential and so trivial that it just doesn't matter, and that they're willing to let you skip it entirely. So that's
Mhm.
a downside. I think the leveling process and sense of exploration should be incentivized and encouraged. I think it's an important formative part of your time spent playing an MMO. That being said, if you do boost in Guild Wars 2, they've done the boost as well as you can do it, insofar as you still need to come back if you want world completion for certain legendaries or various other rewards, right?
Right.
Whereas, yeah, I mean, like with Final Fantasy, you can buy an MSQ skip, or you can boost to max level, or close to. I think you can boost to 70 actually in Final Fantasy. And
Mhm.
yeah, as far as I know, you just really don't need to go back and do any of the stuff you skipped, unless you want to go re-level a job or something like that. If you can just choose to not do it.
Well,
And it's
they have boosts for those too.
Do they? Oh, geez.
You
Well,
can
there.
boost
Well,
your job too.
there you go.
You
There
can
you
use
go.
story skips and job boost for pretty much everything. Um,
Yeah, I think ideally MMOs are bigger than just being max level. I think a lot of MMOs suffer from this problem where people are, sort of skateboarded all the way to max level, and then they feel like they have nothing to do and they get bored and they quit. I
mhm.
think integrating the lower level world and the world as a whole into your max level experience, and having that journey all the way there, and then having continuous value in the lower level zones, even once you're max level, is really important to
Yeah.
that sense of like, I'm in this world, right?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. We have another. What do you think about the capital cities in Guild Wars 2 compared to the cities in WoW?
Oh, I haven't really explored them so much. My knee jerk reaction is to say that they feel really, really big, like large to the point of inefficiency is what it feels like to me. But I also don't have a mount. I don't have a flying mount. That might not be true with a flying mount, but they're really, really big. Sort of like intimidatingly big. But honestly, I haven't spent a lot of time in them, so it's not that educated of an opinion.
No, that's okay. I actually, it's funny that you mention how big the cities are because I think even when I was first playing, I had the opposite idea.
Yeah.
Not necessarily compared to WoW, but compared to okay. So let's say you compared like World of Warcraft to Pokemon. So you're playing Pokemon, you get into a city. There's like 20 buildings, but you can only get into 5 of them to explore.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's supposed to be a city, but there's literally like 6 people. So I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I really like about Guild Wars 2 is that there's so many places to explore to get those extra points of interest to incentivize that exploration, like you mentioned. But then there's also so many NPCs that if you talk to have dialogue, and a lot of the buildings you can actually go into, and they both have like attics, basements, and whatnot where they go into new areas. So I think I really liked that in comparison to
Yeah.
other games for sure. Have you? I'm not exactly sure if you were around when you started. How long have you been playing now
Two and a
for
half or
Guild
three
Wars 2?
weeks.
3 weeks? Okay.
Yeah.
So there are some events coming up, uh, and people were asking in chat if you would be participating in events, especially around holidays, if you would take the time.
Uh, I don't know what they are at all. Like, I'd have to hear about them, but yeah, I'm gonna be gaming. I'm a gamer. I won't be doing anything else.
uh,
I just don't know anything about them. That's my problem.
right, exactly. Apparently, Halloween is great. I haven't checked out anything for Halloween, but Festival of the Four Winds is coming around soon, so that's what people are really excited about. I don't exactly know what it is. Sab, I did do that was the big jump puzzle one, and
Okay.
they have a mode called Tribulation mode, which is literally to like make people upset But it's kind of cool. So did you play like old school Zelda games
Yep.
with having the
Yep.
hearts and stuff? So it's kind of a mix between a jump puzzle and that. So you can like pick up a stick and you have hearts and you can like fight people and then you have a jump
Oh,
puzzle as
okay.
well. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
that
So you can
one
like
without
knock
giving
people off
too
maybe or stop them from doing it.
yeah. Well, it's supposed to be really, really, really tough, but you can get like skins and stuff from it too. So most of the rewards for like that are achievement and skins like that.
Okay.
Everyone's saying
Sounds fun.
Halloween is great. So I'm not
Yeah,
exactly
sounds fun.
sure. Does New World have a release date yet? Did they actually give something out
Uh,
after having the? Was it the alpha recently, or did they finally have the
they
weekend
they
beta?
had a beta,
It
and
was a
there's
beta.
like a 3 week long beta. They're gonna have another beta in early September, but I think the official release date is September 29th, a month
Okay.
from today or so.
So when New World releases, obviously you're excited about that. Are you planning on streaming that and putting that as part of your like repertoire for MMOs for stream?
Yeah, 100%. So I've trying to been I've trying I've been trying to get people ready for this. Like I have a 6 month plan getting ready for the new expansion for Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons. But there will be probably 2, 3, 4 weeks somewhere mixed in there where we're going to be playing New World really, really hardcore. That's my plan.
Mhm.
So I've been telling people I'm going to play New World for as long as it's entertaining and fun. And that could be a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but I don't think it's going to be like permanent fun always. I don't think any MMO is. So
Right.
yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I am standing firm with my dedication to getting ready for End of Dragons. Like I want to be ready to go when that comes out.
Right. So if you do end up liking it or thinking it's a lot of fun for a certain amount of time, will you continue to stream both in long stints like that, like the couple of weeks or a month or whatever? Or would you swap back and forth during the week so that people who have followed you for Guild Wars 2 will still have that
Mhm.
content?
Yeah, I think let's say we're in a situation where I'm really really enjoying both. I think you do like you do an 8 hour stream and you do 4 here and then 4 there. Yeah, I think you split it up. I think having days where it's like, okay, this is Guild Wars Day and this is New World Day or this is whatever day. Um, I think that just ends up being kind of weird, and people don't know what to expect each day, and they tune in. They're like, "Hey, are you playing this today?" No, that's 2 days from now, right? So I think trying to do everything every day to a certain extent is probably the best way to approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. People are asking if you think it's going to be too early. If you think, or well, they're kind of just discussing in chat, like, it's September. That's too early. What do you think? Is that too early for New World release?
Here's my problem with New World. I played the beta a lot, but max level was 60, and I got to level 45 or so before the beta ended. So it's similar case where you could get to level 60 and then there could be nothing to do. So I'll tell you, like, I really enjoyed my leveling process. I enjoyed leveling. It was a lot of fun. And I enjoyed the combat. It was a lot of fun. But, uh, we could get to 60 or finish out with it and then just get bored within a week and then quit. Who knows? Yeah, it could be the case. So I really hope that they have enough max level content to make the game worth playing long term. And if they don't, then it is what it is. Got to
Yeah.
see.
And so, not knowing what you would be doing, or if you'll think that Endgame is fun, have people told you that the Endgame for Guild Wars 2 is horizontal?
They have told me that, yeah, and that it takes a long time to unlock the legendaries, which are more like cosmetic upgrades and not
Mhm.
necessarily like player power upgrades. Yeah, I actually this is another concern. I'm concerned that after I do all of the raids and I've maybe maxed out all the fractals after however long that takes, that I get bored because I can't really upgrade my character anymore, right? And so I think a lot of players' solution to that, with as far as Guild Wars 2 players goes, is just to play multiple characters. I don't think I want to play multiple characters, so that is a concern where I kind of finish my main and then I feel like I have nothing to do. But I have no idea how long it takes to finish a main. It could take a year or 2 years to finish your main. In which case you're having fun the entire time and you don't whatever, right? So 2 years
Mhm.
out of an MMO is that's a good deal, right? That's more than you can expect.
Yeah. So there are people in chat that are mentioning masteries too, which is something I'm working on right now. So eventually, once you do get into raiding in certain areas, if you do decide to complete the story, there will be certain masteries that you need, and you actually need experience to level those up through things like map complete. and such. So
There you
like
go.
you were talking about, there are things that incentivize you going back. So it's almost like another set of leveling.
Yeah.
So it's like you get to max level, but then you level again. So there is that at least. And with legendaries, do you actually plan on trying to go for crafting any legendaries?
I don't know what it entails. Like, I don't know what it takes or how long it takes. I don't even know which ones are good or which ones I want. I really have no idea. I'm gonna have to look into that once I'm max level. So we got to see. I'll tell you this: I'm a very like goal oriented player. This is gonna sound really weird. I don't think I play MMOs because I have a ton of fun playing them. Like, I don't think they're a ton of fun. I play MMOs because they do a really good job at simulating a sense of accomplishment. I feel like every day I'm logging in and I accomplish something. I have this many more points or this many more achievements or this much more, percentage progress of world completion on my map or whatever. I feel like I'm getting things done. And that's what really, really appeals me to them. So I like to play MMOs as long as I feel like I'm accomplishing things. And then the second I feel like it's a waste of time or I'm not doing things anymore, or I've accomplished everything there is reasonably to accomplish, that's when I notice I get bored. So as long as there's stuff to do or stuff to accomplish or goals to chip away at, then I'm happy.
So you're not necessarily a sandbox person. Like you like having something there rather than creating something, because there are people who like the idea of Guild Wars 2 being horizontal play at the end because they can do whatever they want or create their own fun, like different builds with different gear sets that have different stats, rather than going for a guild gear treadmill, like people call it for other MMOs. So you're not necessarily into that.
I think I would be, let me put it this way. I would, as far as Guild Wars 2 max level content goes, I would be more motivated to farm legendaries and keep on accomplishing more legendaries than like RP, if that makes sense. Because if you're RPing, I feel like I'm not really accomplishing anything. It's just like for the fun value, you're enjoying it, but you don't actually have any quantitative value to show at the end of the day for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And speaking of completionists and doing things like that, have you actually looked at crafting yet? Have you done any crafting? Have you picked a profession? And what do you think about crafting in Guild Wars 2 compared to?
I haven't done any crafting. All I have done is just save and salvage and save everything. Chat's like, oh, you need to save that. Oh, salvage that. So I'm doing that. So I think I probably have a ton of resources in my bank stockpiled, but I don't even know what the professions are. I don't know. I haven't started any of them at all, but it's something I probably will do at some point.
I will say they're very different, and I'm sure people will be really excited about you actually discovering them, to be honest. What do you think about gathering and having tools that you are essentially disposable, not having like one tool that you can just go around? I don't know if you've been doing that while you've been doing the completion, like getting nodes for plants, chopping down trees and whatnot, but the
I
idea
have a
that
little
the
bit.
tools are gone.
And it sounds like you upgrade your tools. Like, tools are sort of like weapons insofar as there's tool upgrades. This tool can allow you to harvest this thing, and then there's another tool that lets you harvest a higher level resource. Is that kind of how the system is?
Certain levels, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It feels like that feels rewarding, right? To level up and like have these breakpoints. I like that, but no, I really haven't done much of it yet.
Perfect. All right, so I think that's honestly everything I have had for you. What have we been talking for like 2.5 hours? I think this is not only the first live podcast,
Oh,
but it's
wow.
the longest podcast I've done, I'm pretty sure. So
Hey, we talked about a lot.
yeah, for sure. I don't know if anybody from chat had any other relevant questions they wanted to add that we could ask real quick, but if not, I would just ask if there was anything else that you thought you would want to add that you don't think that we've touched on that you wanted to discuss.
It was good. Yeah, I
know
think
that's a very broad
I'm
question.
I'm just taking a look. I think that's all of it.
Yeah, I think so too. People are like, I'm ready for 2 more hours. Oh man, I like to think I can keep up with people pretty well and that I can extemporaneously speak, but I might be tapped, honestly.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
Okay, so have you tried action camera in the game?
I tried that.
Since you
I
like
tried
impulse
that the
combat.
first day. I tried it the first day, and that was a mistake. I flipped it off within like 90 seconds. Yeah, I flipped that off. I remember it was like my second day. I tuned into Mighty Teapot, and he was like, "Hey, dude, listen. A piece of advice: if anyone in your chat tells you to turn on Action Cam, just ban them. Just permaban them." And the day before I had already fallen for it. So yeah, going forward, that's my protocol: is anyone that tells me to flip it on, permaban.
All
Easy.
right. Have you created a guild yet, and have you looked at any of the guild tabs and systems?
I have made a guild just to get viewers in. As far as like making a guild hall or any of the actual guild functionality, I'm gonna wait to be level 80 to do it. I think you actually need to be 80 to make the guild hall, so that's gonna have to wait until I'm 80. There's like a long checklist of things I want to do once I'm 80, but I just have to get there first. Making a guild hall is one of them, and trying World v World, and there's a lot of exciting stuff I want to do, but I need to get there.
Yeah, that's how I feel about a lot of it too. And so are you in any other guilds except the one that you've created? And how do you like
No,
the idea of being able to be in 5?
I was gonna ask. I think you can be in 5, right?
Mhm.
It seems like I'm a WoW player. It seems a bit weird to be in multiple guilds, but I just like it's one of those functionalities. I have not messed with it enough to really have an opinion on it. Um, I can't. I guess I can't really think of a reason why you'd want to be in 5 guilds. Maybe you're in like an ERP guild, and you're in a PvP guild, and you're in a raiding guild, and they each do their different things. You ERP on Tuesdays, you raid on Wednesdays, and you PvP on Thursdays. I guess that would be the reason to do it. That's exactly it. So yeah, I'm just leading my ERP guild, and we're not going to worry about PvP or raiding. We're just going to focus on what we do, and we do it well. And so I'm just going to focus on that for now.
There is so for Stay Safe and for those that left before TBC, would Guild Wars 2 be a good game to get into in your opinion? Would you promote this to other people if they asked if it was a game that they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you are a how can I put this? I think if you are a bored retail WoW player, I can understand the appeal to Final Fantasy XIV. I think there's a lot more similarities between retail WoW and Final Fantasy XIV than classic WoW and Final Fantasy XIV. If you are a bored classic WoW player, or you're bored with classic TBC, I think Guild Wars 2 is a really good place to go. But at the end of the day, there are so many different MMOs, and they're all so different and unique in their own ways. It's worth trying out multiple. The plus side of Guild Wars 2 is it's free to try out. You don't have to spend money to try it out. So that's what I would say. Give it a shot. And I think within probably the first 6 hours of playing, you're gonna know like whether you like it or not. You can kind of get the general grasp of it. And if you're an MMO player, you're gonna be able to pick it up quickly enough to kind of know what's going on. So but yeah, I would it took me, so I said you can get the game for free and try it out for free. Within 3 days of getting the game, I spent like $80 on buying the next 2 expansions. Like I knew, yeah, I'm gonna keep playing this. So that's where I'm at. I would recommend it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, and I missed one. So you said that you have done beetle races. What did you think of the beetle races, and have you seen anything like it in any other MMO that you have?
I think the only thing that comes to mind are the chocobo races in Final Fantasy. I haven't done those. I've seen other people do them, but I really like in Guild Wars that if you want to take a break from leveling, or if you're max level, take a break from hardcore content, there is kind of low key, fun, silly things to do. Like there are beetle races, there are parkour challenges. You can go do map completion, and I think it's important to have a balance of casual, kind of brain dead gameplay with super hardcore, mechanically complex gameplay. Sometimes you want to play the game, but just kind of chill. You want to be in the game, but not really play the game, and just kind of chill and relax a little bit. And I think Guild Wars 2 does that really well also.
Yeah, and actually, a question I had that I also forgot to ask as well. How do you feel about not necessarily having to be a part of the Trinity with your character, especially now that you've done dungeons and having like a hybrid build that can do everything? Obviously, later on, there will be raids that you need to have support and you need to have someone that acts as a tank, but not having to necessarily do that, especially out in the open world.
Yeah, it actually occurred to me earlier today, actually, where I've done 2 dungeons, and I've done like 8 dungeon runs total, 1 for the story for each, and then 3 exploration modes per. So eight runs total between 2 dungeons. And not once have I ever thought about, oh, do we have a healer? Oh, do we have a tank? Like earlier today, we did a dungeon with 2 thieves and 3 necromancers, and you can do it. I like that. I think for leveling content, that's fine. like you said, for harder content, you do sort of have to have like imposed roles for everyone, which is fine also. But yeah, I don't think there's any reason to impose those hard guidelines on leveling content. It's great, and I like that you can also, like, as far as I understand, you can be kind of a healing necromancer, or you can be a healing. Can you be like a healing thief?
Heal Scourge is one of the biggest things, because they're really amazing at rezzing people. They can pull people to them to res them. It's kind of, people call it broken. That's actually what Teapot plays, is a heal necromancer essentially. So yes,
Oh wow,
absolutely. And support thief is a thing. Actually, when we did our first raid wing, my fiance tanked on his thief, so he was like an evasion tank almost.
yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. I think giving people, freedom and liberty to play how they want is generally a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only other question that I had, and then I forgot. So I was going to ask if you'd done a certain thing, and I don't actually remember what it was, because I was so into what you were saying.
I've done it. It was great. I loved it,
no.
and I did it. I did it twice.
Awesome.
It was so good.
And I actually just had my power flicker. So I think I'm going to end everything here. I don't know if chat saw that, but all of my lights actually just flickered. So if you want to remind everybody again where they can find you, if you don't want to just promote your Twitch, you can promote other things, if you have a website
good enough for me. Yeah, no, StaySafeTV is fine. Just come and find me and hang out. And guys, we had an excellent host. Xandrii did a great job with her first live podcast. Everyone should make sure to follow Xandrii. And I appreciate the invite. Thank you for having me on.